the March 12th Liquor Commission Board. This is our 11 a.m. session. Chair, are you ready for the first item?
All right, call the first case.
Okay. Tesfaye Baru and Fikirman Woku, Jono's Ethiopian Restaurant and Lounge, trade name Jono's Ethiopia. This is at 34 South Utah Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application for transfer of ownership.
Abraham Hartman on behalf of Jono Ethiopian Restaurant and Lounge. With me I have Fikirman Woku and Vero Tesfaye, the prospective licensees.
Melvin J. Kanansky here on behalf of the current licensee who's here as the seller. She's saying that she's here, to let Your Honor know she's here, in person.
Do we have any testimony, or are you going to?
Not from her.
By
Mr.
way of a proffer, I do have, I believe there are two other parties.
Mr. Yeager's here from the downtown
All
partnership.
right, well, we better swear them, because sooner or later, that's what's going to happen. Swear the witnesses.
He solemnly swear or affirm under the perjury that the testimony given be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, I'll hear from you.
Yes, Your Honor. We have Jono Ethiopian Restaurant at 34 South Utah. It is a B license. It's a transfer of an existing license in an existing location. I do have a copy of the previous license to introduce as Exhibit 1. The license, again, is 3 years old. Currently, they have first and second floor premises for restaurant, live entertainment, basement for storage. The copy I have says no sale of packaged goods. That restriction was removed about a year ago with Mr. Previs. That being said, they have no plans to have a separate packaged goods area at the location, and there are restrictions on their sales. May I introduce Exhibit 1, Your Honor?
Is that the same? Okay. And
The
there'd be
restrictions regarding the license, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1, also the file would go in as Exhibit 2. Go ahead.
Exhibit 2, well, I guess Exhibit 3 then, Your Honor, would be the current and existing MOU that my client is comfortable with and would sign as soon as it's presented to us by Mr. Yeager. It restricts individual beers, sales of smaller than a pint, miniatures, and wine less than a regular sized bottle of wine. I do have some maps if you'd like, Exhibit
ahead.
4. Corporate information is Exhibit 5.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I have one copy of the menu that's proposed. It's still very preliminary at this point. That'll be Exhibit 6.
Okay.
My client, Mr. Vero, is the in-city licensee. He's been here for over 2 years. And Mr. Worku is the out-of-city licensee who has 10 years of experience in the restaurant industry. His wife and mother-in-law are going to be doing a significant amount of the cooking going forward.
Is the bar open right now?
It is. At this point, Your Honor, we'd
Do you have
like
any
to-
questions?
No, we're just here as the
I understand, but
No questions.
I don't know. All right, there's no opposition?
Mr. Maslin, I think, has had some concerns, so I'll defer to him at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, for the record, Gary Maslin, I represent Lombard Liquors.
Can you get a mic, please?
For the record, Gary Maslin, I represent Lombard Liquors. I've had several preliminary conversations with Mr.
No, Lombard Liquors, who are
That's,
the,
that is a neighboring business. That is a packaged goods store, which is adjacent to this premises. Originally, I wrote a letter to the board, as my understanding, that we're not going to sell any packaged goods of any kind. However, we've subsequently learned that they do wish to sell packaged goods on a isolated basis. It's been presented to
well,
us
you have
that
to explain to me how you fit into the picture. I don't know where.
my client retained me to express his concerns regarding this business, which is a Class B license, selling packaged goods.
So in other words, you don't want them selling packaged goods?
No, we don't have an objection to them selling packaged goods in the manner in which they have expressed to us that they're going to be selling them. And that is that they are not going to have a separate packaged goods section. It is primarily and is going to be operated as a restaurant, but on an occasional basis, a customer may come in and want a case of beer to go or to have something to go and everything sold over the bar. They don't have any objection to that.
But I thought you just finished saying that you were in agreement with that.
He is.
Well, Your
Yeah,
Honor, there was
but-
some differences of opinion. At one point, there was a request for a restriction on the sale of packaged goods, that there be no packaged goods. My clients are agreeing to not sell miniatures. I think it's smaller than pints of liquor, miniatures, I believe, and any wine smaller than full-size bottles. That would probably exclude night training or those other unfortunate beverages. He is going to sell packaged goods. It isn't going to be his primary source of income by any means. Mr. Maslin expressed concern as through his client that they have a dedicated packaged goods area. At this point, the blueprint in the file does not contain anything regarding a separate packaged goods area. There's no intent to have one. However, they're unwilling to sign a restriction saying that they could never do so. If they were to do so, which, again, there are no plans for it, they would have to submit plans to the liquor board, get permits through zoning. And then the gentleman next door could, at that point, protest or resist or, put up a fight. Again, as it stands, it's just a restaurant. That's their goal. They will sell packaged goods, but it's not going to be a primary source of revenue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will this be from dining, the packaged goods that they sell? Will it be from the customers that are dining there, or would it be from walk-ups who can come and get the packaged goods?
Well, I wouldn't say
The ones that you agree to sell based on the MOU.
The MOU does not restrict I don't say walk-ups because there's no window, right? They would have to come into the bar just like anybody else would. The goal was primarily to sell the clients that are at the restaurant and want to take a six-pack or case home or a nice bottle of wine home. That being said, if someone does come in, the A license is only operative till midnight. So if they came in at 1 a.m., they'd certainly be able to buy unrestricted items over the counter at this restaurant.
What does that mean?
Go ahead.
I don't understand what that means.
I'm sorry.
What do you mean unrestricted items? They could buy unrestricted, what,
We-
you talking about food?
I'm sorry, subject to the agreement being no miniatures, no fifths.
And this agreement is
Mm-hmm.
like of no value. This is a October 2013 agreement that relates to somebody that's not even before us.
That's correct. We're
Are you gonna sign a new one?
absolutely.
That-
discussed
that-
it with Mr. Yeager.
Okay, so this is just an example of what it might be.
It's going to be identical with
Because this says 4 or 5
Who'd you
pages and
discuss it
only
with?
4 pages.
Who did you discuss it with?
Mr. Tom Yeager, he's with the Downtown Partnership. I don't want to speak on it before him, but we had extensive discussions on the restrictions. It's my understanding this is more or less a standardized agreement for places in the area. We're absolutely happy to have those restrictions. We think that people who buy some of those items are going to be going to hurt the restaurant business.
So what are you asking us to do?
We're asking that they not have any separate packaged goods store within the restaurant, which they have agreed to do.
What do you want us, the liquor board, to do?
Well, that's what we're asking. They've already agreed. My client has spoken with them, and they know each other, coincidentally. My client's not here in opposition to the license being transferred, but, and they've indicated it's not their intent to hurt his business in any way. And they're in the restaurant business, not in the packaged goods business. But they
They say they don't want it in our decision. Now, they're asking us to transfer the license, subject to the agreements that they have, but leave it open so that if they change their mind, that's what I hear him saying, open if he changes his mind after I'm gone.
Hopefully you'll be here a long time.
We just want it as it sits. That's the situation.
Okay,
There is
so
currently
are you
restriction.
opposed to that?
No, we're not opposed to that. If they do want to change the floor plan in some way, we ask that we be notified and have an opportunity to be heard.
Okay, well, it's all in the transcript.
Yes.
Okay. Now, any more questions?
So the location is currently open, and it's been open and operating since March 2013, correct?
Ms. Kaforis, you,
Since 2011.
So can you come up to the microphone? So since 2011, it's been open and operating continuously?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to get clarity on this agreement. This is just an example. It says there are 5 pages, there are only 4 pages here. It involves people that aren't before us. So when you're asking us to issue the license subject to the agreements contained herein, I don't see how we do that because we don't have the agreement.
if I may,
Yeah, please explain.
They are assuming the present agreement, which is that agreement is with Ms. Kaforis, pursuant to discussion with Mr. Yeager, the new parties are assuming that same agreement.
So the new agreement will be exactly
Same.
like the agreement that I'm holding in my hand?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And we'll see what page 5 says?
Maybe it just says page 5.
I have no pride in authorship of that. It was done by Mr. Previs.
Yeah, Mr. Previs.
He,
The original.
It's not, page 5 is not attached.
I have, well, this is 4 or 5.
It might have just not printed.
If there
All
are no
right,
further
so-
questions, at this time, I'd ask that the transfer be granted from the current licensees to my clients, the prospective licensees.
there's no page 5.
All right, any other questions of commissioners?
No.
None?
None.
I
None from
vote
me.
yes.
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 You have our decision.
Mr. Hurd, I can see you down here, please.
Yes, sir.
You have to let me know when you're, ma'am, you have to let me know when you're ready. Call the next case.
Okay.
The item from Jones Montgomery and Sandip Singh, Desi August Corky's Liquors, that has been postponed until next week, until 3/26, which is our next meeting. The next item is Jin Shu Si, Chang Zhu Sun, Michael Supermarket, Inc., trade name is Slater's Liquor. This is at 5123 Park Heights Avenue. It's a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, a transfer of ownership.
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of Michael Supermarket, Inc. is the prospective new owner, and it's Michael's son, as abbreviation for Chang Zhu Sun, and Jojo, as abbreviation for Jinzhou Shi, who are the prospective licensees before you. I do have a letter from the community I'd like to introduce as Exhibit 1.
Go ahead.
I also have some copies of their corporate documents
Exhibit 1.
as Exhibit 2.
File Exhibit 2. This
Thank you.
Exhibit 3.
This location is in a special area where, unlike normal A license, which are open from 6 a.m. to 12, they're going to be restricted to 9 a.m. to 12. That's currently existing. They're currently operating in that sense. I do have a map of that Park Heights Urban Renewal Plan area.
And I was told that the licensee has left the country.
That is correct, Your Honor. I believe there was some sort of family emergency which they attended to in Korea, and they have left as a part of all the documents that occur after transfer. Been taken care of, everything's signed, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. At this point, we have the formal hearing,
That's yours.
and we're hoping to have a transfer. If I can continue, I will.
Go ahead.
Jojo is a city resident. She's been in the city for a few years, and she currently resides at 1039 North Carey Street. She's had a lot of experience in running small grocery stores. Slater's Market, as it currently sits, and as it's going to be under Michael's Supermarket, Inc., is a small grocery with a liquor store section. It will continue to operate in that fashion, selling, fresh groceries, and just in regular groceries as well. Michael has 3 years' experience running a liquor store in New York City and just recently moved to Baltimore City. And between the two of them, they will be there at this point operating at all times. Their plan is to card everybody under 35 years old, and no intoxicated individuals will be served of any variety. As I indicated, they do sell grocery items. They're currently open and operating, and we do have, as I saw, a letter from the Community Association.
All right. Commissioners' questions?
I don't have any questions.
I'm a little concerned about this area. What neighborhood group is that particular market is located in? Can anybody tell me the neighborhood group?
I'm actually not familiar.
Is it a Main Street program up there? Retail Vendors District? Anybody know?
Honestly, not sure.
Has anyone talked to anyone? I see the letter, but did anyone talk to anyone in a group setting, or did the letter just come by way of sitting down with one individual?
Mr. Sun spoke with the head of the organization, submitted a letter, They discussed how they're gonna proceed going forward, how they're gonna be involved in the community, how they'll deal with complaints if there are any. You know, their plan is to be a good community member, active in the community. At this time, you know, there haven't been any discussion with any other community groups.
I can't recall a grocery store being up there, that's why. Is this gonna be more grocery, less liquor, or more liquor than a few items being sold?
I don't actually mind testifying to that, Your Honor. They haven't been sworn in, but I have actually been in the location.
I need somebody to tell me before I can vote.
Sure, it is a grocery store with a small packaged goods section. I believe all the liquor is behind the counter, is that correct?
Next to the car.
You want
Swear
swear?
on that? Yeah.
Swear the witnesses.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Michael, where is the liquor located in the store?
Get to the mic, please.
Next to the cashier place, the register,
Liquor is only a small,
very small section, like 3 feet next to the cashier place.
Repeat the time of operation again for liquor.
The liquor only three small fridges next to the cashier place.
he
the
wondered,
register.
what are the hours?
Oh, from 9 to we close 8 o'clock.
9 to 8.
Yes.
They're allowed to be open until midnight, but they do close at
How
8.
many other liquor establishments do they have up there in that block?
It's 3.
3 others? Every time I've sat on this bench and a liquor case comes up for that area, I have 4 or 5 people in here protesting the transfer of the establishment of. And this time I don't see any. So I have to ask the question, did we notify those individuals in the area about these hearings?
They're on our normal mailing list as far as our, the same people that usually come out for Park Heights. I did not receive anything in particular on this one, and I do understand your concern, sir, but I did not receive anything in particular, and then I received the letter of support.
I do have to emphasize again that Rule 210A that we discussed last week indicates it's just the character and fitness of an in-location transfer to new licensees.
I know what the
And I'm sure,
requirements are.
Mhm.
Know it well,
no
but
question.
I still have my own concerns.
There's been no attempt to sneak this through or sneak this by anybody. We've heard nothing from local community groups, with the exception of the one we discussed.
But don't you think that if a person comes before us in an attempt to get something transferred, and they don't make contact with the community, don't that kind of like a test to their character, whether or not they feel like they want to be all-inclusive and let the folks know that I'm bringing this into your neighborhood, or it's already there, but I'm going to be the person who's going to be there. Let me tell you something about me. You don't think that deals with character?
I think that last week we discussed this very issue and we decided that it's not. I can actually quote Commissioner Moore, if you'd like. I wrote it down when I watched the YouTube video yesterday. Beyond that, I don't think so. I don't think there's any requirement at all to go to the community. I'm not trying to be difficult. He did talk to somebody in the community. They had a discussion. He's agreed to be cooperative and responsive and a good community member following all the rules. That being said, there's no requirement to go to any community group, much less several community groups in the area. It's an in-location transfer. I do believe that, he is a fit applicant. I do believe he's got experience. I don't see any reason why there would be any concern for this transfer.
Well, let me restate, because you stated the way you wanted to. I'm in agreement with you. You don't have to go to a community group.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking in terms of his character.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do to convince us that he would be a good person for this liquor establishment? And when I consider those things and identifying his character, I look at how he goes out into the community, what he's part of. Do he want folks to be, it's an open transfer. I want you to know who I am, this is how I'm going to operate. To me, that speaks of his character. I'm not saying that he had to go to a community group, but it speaks
Certainly.
of his character.
And if I
But
might just jump in, I don't think I said that they don't have to go to a community group. If I said anything, that they didn't have to have an MOU with any community group. But I think it's critical that they speak with community groups. I honestly believe that it's a good showing of good faith that they speak with community groups. It's important to have the support of the community groups,
Mhm.
especially in Upper Park Heights, which is where this is going to be.
Mhm.
There is a saturation of liquor establishments in that area. I hear what Commissioner Jones is saying, and obviously, he's been here longer than I, and if there's an absence of what usually happens when establishments in Park Heights appear, this becomes an outlier application in that regard. And because there's an absence of clear contact with the community, I would feel more comfortable tabling this application until such time as they've actually reached out to the many community groups in Park Heights and just said, this is us, this is who we are. Do you have any issues with us? Do you support us? Do you not support us? I'm not saying that they have to have an MOU, but I do think that they should reach out to the community and have some conversation. If you heard something different,
My concern
I
is,
find that unfortunate.
sure, my concern is if we come back here in 2 weeks and the community group is against them, the
We would
question-
need to know why. Because I do think that the issue is their character. And if, in the absence of character testimony or character evidence, how do we as a board assess their character in a zone or in a cone of nothing? How do we do that? That is the question, is their character.
I believe that their character is shown by the fact that they've submitted the application, they run a legal business, they have no criminal record.
That
takes-
doesn't do it. I don't think submitting the application alone is a statement of good character. It's a statement of interest to get a
My
license.
concern continues to be that if they haven't reached out to all community groups, they have reached out to a community group, they have a support letter in the file indicating that they are cooperative, will continue to be cooperative. I think that speaks volumes to their character.
Commissioner Jones has drilled down on the issue of, they have a letter from one person who.
One community group.
One person from the community group. It doesn't sound like they were at a meeting and presented their bona fides, their credentials to the group. They met with the president, and we just don't have any information on which to make the assessment that we're required by law to make. And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, this is just, they're not changing the character of the business,
Not at all.
and they're not changing the way it operates.
That's correct.
It's just the character of the licensees. That's that issue.
Well, folks, I don't think the liquor board, our commissioners, really have to do the job for the community. There's absolutely no evidence here whatsoever to find any of these things you're talking about that might exist. And it just seems to me we're reaching over backwards because the neighborhood has too many liquor licenses. But the fact of the matter is, that's not our job today. We're not testing whether or not this is a proper liquor license. This is a transfer hearing, and I don't see the facts or to support the law to deny it. To be honest with you. You know, you can criticize me for saying that. Go ahead.
No, I don't
no
criticize you, George.
criticism.
I'm in agreement that there's no facts to prevent us from approving this. I think that when you talk about the character, you can talk about it in more ways than one. And when the attorney made the statement that he didn't have to seek out a community group, he was strong with his statement, and I felt that I needed to say what my position was. And my position is that, no, he may not have to seek out a community group. But if I'm going to make a decision on his character, and I don't feel that he has shown me that his character is one that is deserving of having a liquor license, and then I'm letting the attorney know that that's my feeling. And if I decide to vote against that based on how I feel, then that's so be it. But no, he doesn't, I mean, his character to this point, it doesn't mean that he hasn't made that requirement. It just means that I just think that to further, I guess, support your character, it's always good to seek out to those in which you're going to make your income from.
Would you be more comfortable if we postpone this to give them an opportunity to do that?
Yeah, I would love to, sir.
How do you feel about that?
I think the rules are explicit unless there's a finding that the applicants have not met certain requirements. I think they have met those requirements. I do respect the board's opinions, and I think that I'm very hesitant to postpone it, because I think that the next time we'll be here, we'll have dozens of community members who will have been extra notified to come out and resist. And then I wonder what the situation will be then. We had a similar situation last
They're
week.
gonna come out on this, not the issue as to whether it's another too many bars in the neighborhood. They're gonna come out on the issue that's only the issue before us, which is the character of the,
And my question for them would be, how do they know he's not of character? He's not a criminal, he is an upstanding citizen, he has run his business honorably in the past.
I'm just asking if,
Let them tell us. I mean, we can't sit here and assume.
I'm not
what
gonna
they might
do
say.
your job for you. I mean, you have to tell us what your position is you do not wish a postponement.
Let me speak to my client, just a
Okay.
moment. Your Honor, my client would be happy to reach out to the community groups. I think that it shows he is of good character. I think there have been hearings in the past where they've been requested to reach out after an approval. It seems that today we are reluctant to do that. So if we need to postpone it for a couple weeks, my client would be happy to reach out to them. My concern is sometimes community groups meet once a month, and I'd be very hesitant to wait 2 and 3 months to come back here waiting for community meetings.
2 weeks. And so your client wishes a postponement.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're-
that it has to do with his character, but we do wish to meet with the community.
All right, commissioners, you are in favor
Favor,
of
yes.
postpone?
Yep, I'm in favor of postponing.
Postpone, 2 weeks. And I'm not going to write all this down, but the issue is he's going to reach out to the community and come back in 2 weeks and tell us what happened.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Come back in 2 weeks.
Make sure we put this on the 26th docket, yeah. So now move to 26th docket.
All right, now. Are you ready, Jen?
We're on the record.
Okay. Call the next case.
It's Ian Parrish and Charles Parrish. This is Baltimore Eagle LLC. The trade name Baltimore Eagle, 2022 North Charles Street. This is a Class BD7, beer, wine, and liquor, an application for transfer of ownership.
For the record, Melvin J. Knansky, representing the applicants, and it's already been approved, they had the transfer hearing already, and they just haven't completed the transfer, correct?
That is correct.
Well, go ahead. You're the attorney. Go ahead, tell us. Are you going to have testimony?
Yeah, because they want to explain to the board what they have
All
and
right.
haven't done.
Swear the witnesses.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you testify? Solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony given will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Commissioners, how are you?
Maybe if you could move down one, and then when you use that microphone, can you do that?
Sure.
I don't want to be pushy, but
I'm going to pass it, I'm going to give you guys each one copies.
state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Ian Parrish. The address is 6721 Hartford Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21234.
And you're one of the applicants here, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And this application was approved, and you still have not completed the transfer because of renovation, is that correct?
Well, the renovation and some other reasons, yes.
All right, well, tell the board what you've been doing in the meantime since it's been approved and why it's taken so long.
Sure, I'll try to keep my answer as succinct as possible. It's been about 2 years, and I'll try to collapse that down into 3 minutes if you'll allow me. Again, I'm Ian Parrish. I've been building for 22 years.
You're what?
I'm sorry?
Wait, what did you say?
I said I'm Ian Parrish. I've been building real estate for 22 years.
you?
I'm 38 years old, which would mean I started as child labor at 16. This particular property is in an area where my family has a bunch of real estate, and it was for sale for 5 years before we ever acquired it. We acquired.
I think what you got to do is go right to the issue here.
Okay.
You've been out of business since 2013.
That's right,
And,
2012.
and you say that you've had an agreement to transfer way back then by a prior board, but that doesn't give you permission to be out of business for 2 years.
What's the holdup? What took you so long where you haven't completed, and what is, how long is it gonna take you to finish?
Sure.
Okay.
On December 6, 2012, we closed the business. The reason why is when we got in there after we bought the property, we found a lot of issues that couldn't have been discovered before we went in and started taking bed sheets off of walls and walls down that had been covering structural and other issues. We took the next 90 days to inventory goods and inventory memorabilia that this bar had collected over 30 years. At that point, after 90 days, we began what I call triage of the space. It was about 10,000 square feet of hoarder space. There were rooms that we literally could not even get into. So we took room by room, we donated items, we took 2 large box trucks to Habitat for Humanity, we sold items that we could sell, we recycled many computer parts and electronics that we could recycle, and we removed a dumpster a day for 30 days. These are 30-yard dumpsters, so there's a tremendous amount of materials. By summer 2013, a couple things happened to get the project moving along. One, we coordinated with Major Sabrina Tapp Harper of the Baltimore City Police Department to engage surveillance operations from that business. The reason why we bought the building is all the problems that it had had. And so we coordinated to be a good steward of that property, to do something about the drugs and prostitution that had been run out of that business for years before we ever bought it. We installed security lighting. We contracted with the architect David Gleason, structural engineer Bryant Blake, and MEP engineer, that's mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer Thomas Folks, to begin plans. We also dealt for several months with a lien that hadn't been picked up on the title search through Chase Bank, but we moved forward. We submitted our plans in January of 2014, so we did pretty good as far as timeline. Those plans were approved by June 2014. Now that took 6 months, as I'm sure the board is aware. At that point, Baltimore City had moved from a paper permitting application process to the electronic process. And fortunately, with the help of Councilman Carl Stokes, we were able to get that permit through. I don't know how long we would have been waiting without his help, but it took 6 months. Anyway, the permit was approved in June of 2014, subject to some help by Baltimore Gas and Electric. Over the time that the business was running, there were various electrical mains going into the building. There were 3. The permit could only be approved when BGE came, cut those, and installed 1 line into the building. So it took BGE another couple of months to do that. That brings us to September 2014. Starting September 2014, I began interviewing project managers and contractors. This project would have been easier if it were larger. It would be steel and concrete construction, but it's not. It's brick and wood. And because of the condition of the brick and the wood, the collapsing roofs, the broken structural joists, the mortar turned to sand, it was an interesting puzzle, I'll say. It was a complicated build. So I mention that because the interviewing of contractors wasn't easy. A lot of contractors...
It's still not open, right, at this point?
At this point, I have engaged with A.R. Marani on Hartford Road. They're doing Friend School on Charles Street. They're bonded up to...
No, answer my question. Were you open at this time or not?
No, we were not open.
Mhm.
No, the building was unsanitary. It was a hazard for anybody to be in there. We had to close it. It's unconscionable that the business was running when it was running.
Well, let me see if I can help you here. What you had to virtually is gut the whole building, is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right, so meantime, you apply for your permits and you have to do construction to get your UNO, is that correct?
That's right.
And how much have you expended so far in the project?
Over $150,000.
And to complete the project,
That's not including acquisition.
yeah, how much more would you have to do to complete the project?
It's going to come out to around $1 million.
All right, and along with that, you have brought, and I'll give this to the board, various progress reports, and you've been giving progress reports to the board periodically, is that correct?
Yes. my restaurant consultant and director of special projects, Christopher Willoughby, who's here, has been sworn in. I've met with the liquor board
So
over
in
10
the file
times.
is our progress reports that were given to the board,
That's right.
okay? And here's a progress report that you have that sort of
Yes.
synopsizes the whole thing.
If the board would like to take a look at this,
Just,
everything that I've been
let me,
saying.
let me
is
get
in
through
here.
what I gotta, you want one of these? I got one here for you here.
Thank you.
And along with that, you mentioned that you had made an arrangement with Mr. Gleason, the architect, is that correct? And here's his letter of April 11th.
All right, I want to catch up with the paperwork. Mark them all as exhibits in correspondingly order. The first one, I think of these two, and so it'll be 1, 2, 3, and the file is number 4.
Yes, sir.
That's mine, or who's that?
Mr. Gleason?
Those are the same letters we have.
You got Gleason's letter too? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know what's in the file.
Okay.
So you have in your file, Mr. Chairman, a letter from Mr. Mike Lynch from A.R. Mariani, who are builders, who have been engaged, and also from David Gleason, the architect, to complete the project on it. And along with that, you had indicated to me that you have a stake in that neighborhood. Your family and your father have, how many properties within that area, would you say?
I mean, we can all read the file, we
Yeah.
take notice of it.
Okay.
But why don't you tell us what the law is with respect to a long-delayed opening?
Well, under 10503, which is the section to complete, the question is, there are times when it takes longer than the 180 days to complete the transfer of the license, and they generally have to do with construction. If there's a fire and there's an arson when you can't complete, other casualty, BG&E not giving you the service that you need, a 3-inch line. If you have a water problem from the water department, getting plans approval from the city, especially in this place because of the character and the condition of the building being so bad they had to gut it, and every time they tore one thing down, they saw something else.
All this in the code.
In the code, it's under Article 2B 10503 is the section that allows the board to give the time to go ahead and complete the transfer. That's the section we're under now because the board already approved the transfer. They just haven't completed picking up the license.
Got it there. Can you show me a copy of it?
Of 10503?
Commissioner, would you read it out loud?
You're saying it's 2B 10 5.
503.
2B 10503, and I don't know what page you have. It'll say, a transfer of a license shall be completed not more than 100 days after the board approves the transfer.
Right.
The board approved the transfer. Subsequently thereafter, the Court of Appeals has said that that's not mandatory in the case of.
All right, so just to be clear, 2B 10-503 just says that a transfer shall be completed 180 days after it's approved. Stop, period. That's all it says. What we're looking for is the extra language that says the exception is if you have trouble for construction, blah, 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 sun, moon, stars don't align, you get more time. Where's that?
You're not going to find it.
Right.
You're going to find it in the case of Woodfield versus West River Improvement Association, which is a case went to the Court of Appeals, which says the language is not
Can we have the full
mandatory.
citation for that case, please? Or at least slow down and say the name.
It's 910 Atlantic 2nd, 452. It was a case came out in Anne Arundel County where it said that Woodfield, Woodfield versus West River Improvement Association.
And what jurisdiction is that from?
Came out of Anne Arundel County when they were talking about the time periods and whether the word shall is mandatory or it's not. And they're saying it's not mandatory under the various circumstances. And I can point out to the board, there's numerous cases in which the board would approve a project that may take a year and a half to complete, but they won't do it unless you grant them a license. So it'd be more than 180 days no matter what happens. And that's happened with a lot of the hotels downtown. It happens with a lot of bigger projects. And also it's happened in things where there's been arson investigations they could not do the rebuilding. So 180 days 180 days is not a mandatory date.
Got a copy of it for us?
Oh, sorry. They go through a long discussion on the word shall and whether or not it's mandatory or the board has discretion. And I think the end result was that it became discretionary depending on the set of circumstances in the case.
What page is the shell on? Where's?
The case went to the Court of Special Appeals, and I think they granted cert on this case.
In their decision, where does it say? Give me a 20 or 30 pages to read. I want to find out where the essence is.
On 459, they're talking about dealing with statutory commands, including time provisions such as these. Courts often speak whether or not they're mandatory or merely directionary, and that's where it takes off from there.
Was there another copy, or?
Oh, here, I'm sorry.
And you're saying, what page should we be looking at?
459, the
459?
top of the left column.
The quotes, that case has been quoted in other extensions before this board in the past.
Are you jumping on the language that says, essentially, that starts on page 458? At the bottom, with respect to the second argument, the court held first that both scheduling conflicts and clerical error justified the extension granted by the court, and that in any event, the 90-day period was directory rather than mandatory? Is that the language you're?
Talking about the language generally in the code, where it does not say anything more than the word shall, whether it's mandatory or it's direction.
That's that doesn't apply to the transfer issue, though. What we're talking about here, or at least what I'm seeing in Woodfield v. West River Improvement, pages 458 to 459, they're talking about a review period for reviewing a decision, and that period is advisory, not mandatory. It doesn't speak to the issue of a transfer of a license occurring or having to be completed within 180 days. I'm just not seeing that.
There is no case that says that.
That's the issue.
Yeah, and
So-
the issue
so
is
this
that
case
policy has always been with this board in the past, over 45 years, is that if there were circumstances that couldn't be completed within 180 days, then they would be, at that point, directionary, not mandatory.
Yeah. So the Woodfield case that you've given us gives us no support at all for your argument that we should allow this transfer beyond the 180-day period. And whatever the practice or the policy was of the boards over the years, really, frankly, all of that went out the window once there was an audit by the state of Maryland that said those practices and procedures that were honored and followed for years were wrong. And that this board was brought in place to make sure that those practices didn't continue. And, I mean, there's a multi-page audit. I believe I have a copy in my notebook that this board, prior members of this board were harshly criticized for disregarding the laws of the state of Maryland. And so that's why, I mean, if you could give us a case or a statute that said, oh, you don't need to follow the law, that would be helpful.
No.
But you're not giving us that.
The transfer has been approved.
The transfer was approved, but
Right.
it must be completed within 180 days.
Or
What?
I'm saying there is
Or
nothing,
there
there is
is-
nothing there.
There is no or.
Right.
And there is no but.
But there is nothing there that says if they don't complete it within 180 days, what happens? This is
Well-
one of the few statutes that doesn't have anything that says that.
And I think it's because it's mandatory that it be completed with 180 days.
Well,
Well,
and-
look on page 459. I'll just read it. When a legislative body commands that something be done, using words such as shall or must rather than may or should, we must assume, absent some evidence to the contrary, that it was serious and that it meant for the thing to be done in the manner it directed. In that sense, the obligation to comply with the statute or rule is both mandatory and directory. The relevant question in this case is whether the sanction sought for non-compliance is an appropriate one. Looks to me like that's right on the target, isn't it?
It is, but what they did there, they extended the time. In this case, that's why they took cert on it.
But it's not saying what you said with respect to shall.
In the Court of Special Appeals case that they had, they spent more time on it, but the Court of Appeals then took cert on it and went further. I don't have, some other parts of the case. Can I just have that one? I'm sorry. I'm gonna take it away from me, but I don't.
Well, I haven't got time to read it all. It seems to me that you should give us a legal summary memorandum of what you
I could do that. I could provide one.
and what you think is appropriate in this case. It's a serious case. It looks to me like to be honest with you, unless you convince me that you have some protection in this case or some other case, that your license is dead.
It doesn't say, I'll give you the memorandum.
Yeah.
That'd be better, rather than go back and forth here.
Yeah. Give us, and we'll have to postpone it, give you time to, but I'm going to take all the testimony today if everybody's here, so that nobody has to come back except for the decision of the board.
And as I'm reading this case has nothing to do with the transfer of a liquor license or the 180-day rule. It all deals with the time to note an appeal.
Well, but if you want to,
That's what
if you want to
this
follow
case
that,
is about.
if you want to follow that, then tell me what the Baines case had to do with it. It was my case I took down to Court of Special Appeals, where they were closed 4 years. And Baines says that 180 days doesn't apply on the case as long as you keep making your payments and you keep active on the license. That was the seminal case that Chief Judge Murphy filed on Baines. And I'll include that in my memorandum on the case.
Well, folks,
And-
there's no point in
No,
discussing it
okay.
now, because you're going to give us a memorandum.
I will.
And then we're going to read it and do some work maybe ourselves on it. But I want to take the rest of the testimony while we're here.
And
Let me
is
have
there anything
this.
else that you want to add? Well, you can keep that. I got one. Do you want this one back or? As long as that.
There is one thing, if you'll allow me.
Go ahead.
This has been a project that I didn't ask for. I took it on because nobody else would.
Here's, Mr. Parrish, I read the entire file, and it's very laudatory of you, and also the neighbors, and so I read every word of it. And but that's not the issue. The issue is whether the law permits you to do what you did. And I realize that you have been caught, but it looks to me like you bought something that you shouldn't have bought. But also I read that apparently the neighborhood where this bar is located was terrible. Everything was going on, and a lot of people were upset. And but they were confident that you were going to straighten it all out. But it's taken you such a long period of time that you've heard what I've said that I want to see if the law permits you to do what your lawyer is asking us to do.
The only thing that I
Oh,
could say briefly is that if this license is lost, all of the plans we've done, the architectural work, the structural work, is for nothing. And at the end of the day, the building will sit because it's built, or at least our plan is to do a tavern. If there's no license, then I don't know, well, I know, it doesn't make sense for us to continue under this plan. And it
Parrish,
become,
This
yes.
liquor board is not in the business of changing the law. All we do is interpret what they have done, giving us direction. They tell us what to do by passing, both in the city and in the state, liquor license regulations and laws. And there's no doubt in my mind that maybe there are times we would like to do other things, but we still have to pay law. When I was a judge for 24 years, I found this all the time. Sometimes I didn't agree with the law, but my job is to carry out the law that's been placed into effect by the legislative bodies. It's not my job as a judge to turn it around and do what I think should be done. And the same is true of our commissioners. We interpret the law if it's clear, and then we're supposed to carry it out. If it should be changed, then you have to go down to Annapolis or the city council, depending on the situation. The city is a charter, of course, a charter organization, and the city has the right to do whatever it wishes to do unless it conflicts with the state laws. And if it conflicts with the state laws, then the state, of course, is superior. And that happens all the time in liquor license decisions. That's why I always say that the granting of the right to sell liquor is a privilege. It's not a right. And it's true of all 50 states and every county and every state. They have the individual right. Now, I want to get on to some of these other people, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Alan Narchik. I'm a business owner in the Charles North neighborhood. Own a building, mixed-use building, about a block away from this facility. I'm also on the board of Charles North Community Association. I handle land use, zoning, code issues, and I handle liquor licenses. I've been doing that for about the past 2 years. I'm here to oppose the transfer of the liquor license for a number of reasons, and they go to both process.
Can I object? The license has already been approved for transfer. The question is whether or not you should extend the time for completion of the transfer.
Okay, then I'm here to oppose. I'm sorry.
I've told you and everybody since I became chairman of the liquor board that I'm going to hear communities, and this is a community board, and I'm going to hear what people have to say. And if they get off the target, or if they will decide that, but I'm going to listen to them.
I just want to make it clear from the record what.
Okay, you have a continuing objection to everything he's going to say, but I want to hear him. And I know my two commissioners want to hear him too.
I'll restate that then, because we don't oppose the transfer. We oppose the completion of the transfer due to, among other things, the time it's taken to complete it. So, and other reasons as well.
Tell us why, sir.
Okay, and we'll go to both process and substance here, because it's some of both. The Charles North Community Association, again, I said I handle the liquor license issues for the past about 2.5 years. I've been doing that, and prior to my handling it, the president of our community association handled it through an umbrella group called the Charles Village Civic Association Land Use Committee. That group has been moved out of Charles Village since that time and has become something called the Greater Charles Village Land Use Council. Just recently that happened, and it was a decision that this is a group of people, it's a coalition of the willing, community associations coming together to talk about inter-community issues. So that's where we do these things. We hear people, they come in. Okay. In the process of this, in terms of getting community input, they came to us in 2012. We came to the liquor board, and we supported the transfer of the license with an attachment of a few conditions. There was an informal MOU at that point that was read into the record by Gene Knight here from Old Goucher. There were basically 3 provisions. They were security, they were, I forgot the second one, but the third one was, it might have been security, sanitation, lighting, whatever. The last one was, you will keep the community abreast of, they didn't have plans at that point, but it was, you'll let us know what's going on and advise us what's happening and involve us when you make a decision about what you're doing with this building. They did come to several community association meetings during the process, during the time period, and typically the updates we got, when I heard that they gave progress reports to this board, I'd be interested in knowing when, because this progress report is the first written progress report we got, and we received this in December of 2014. So 2 years later, we got a progress report. Generally, the progress reports they give us was, this building's a mess. We're moving 30 dumpsters of garbage out of here. It's taken a long time, and that was considered a progress report. I was in that building and considered buying that building prior to the parishes acquiring it. I'm not a civil engineer, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm not an electrical engineer. I walked through that building and walked away from it. I said, this is a disaster, this is a gut and complete restore, this is a mess. I had no interest in it, and I said, somebody's gonna take a lot of money and a lot of time to do this.
So why are you opposed to this? That's, you still haven't told us.
We invited, when this issue came up last year in the fall, we invited them in and said, okay, it's 2 years later, let's talk about what's going on there. We'd like you to present your plans before this land use committee. They came in, they presented the plans, we said, we have concerns both about the length of time it's taken. We asked the same question you just asked. What do you have left to do? When's it gonna be done? And they said, well, they gave us this progress report, and we said, what are the plans for what's gonna go in there? They said, we can't tell you that, we don't know yet. Let's just get through this liquor board stuff, and then we'll work with you guys later. And we said, it doesn't work that way. That makes us nervous when someone tells us that. So we would like to update our memorandum of understanding and put some things in there to make sure the community's comfortable with what's gonna happen there. Our process, since I've been on board with this, is the community association drafts its concerns into a draft MOU. We submit it to the applicant. They review it, they come, sit down, negotiate with us. Everything in it's negotiable. We work through the issues. We've done this countless times with applicants in that community. I've been down here 20, 30 times in the last 2 years. We either reach agreement or we don't, and then we either support or oppose. We never do nothing. We support or we oppose. In this case, we sent them the draft MOU. They came back and said, we don't like your MOU, and we're not going to negotiate it. We'll give you our own MOU that we believe reflects our interests and what we think is fair. And we said
When
that
was this?
this was December of, well, they said that in December of 2014. We said, that's not the way the process works here. That's not the way we've ever done it. Here's our concerns. We're using this MOU to express our concerns. You come back and respond to them. They reached out to other community associations, adjacent community associations. They reached out to City Councilman Carl Stokes. They basically said, we're not dealing with your community association. They're in our community as recorded in the Urban Renewal Ordinance, city planning maps. They're in Charles North. But they reached to other folks and said, we're not dealing with you. This will be mediated by Carl Stokes. Carl Stokes' office said, I want no part of this. Go talk to Charles North. We continued to try to engage them. I personally called Ian Parrish multiple times, left messages. He was busy with some other things. In January, I finally said, of this year, I said, here's the draft MOU, sent it to him. I'll give you Exhibit A, which is the email from me.
I'm going to object because it's really not what we're here about.
I told you I want to take.
I understand, but I mean, for the record, I have an objection
I
to
told
it.
you have a continuing objection. To anything he says. You got it. So you don't have to say anything. Now, what part do you want me to look at in this?
Well, just the fact that this was a respectful, business-like request to come in and negotiate this. Here's our MOU, as we discussed. Here's the process. Please come in. Let's get this done. I sent it because I was concerned, because we had been here in November of 2014, and I said, time's ticking. We're going to end up back in here.
Well, here, first of all, you can't, I mean, are you opposing it because he didn't come in and talk to you?
We're opposing it because he wouldn't come in and negotiate anything with the community. This is the response we got from the parishes. And if you read the first paragraph of that, it said all discussions are off in terms of getting community support. I wish somebody would read that first paragraph out loud.
Let me straighten something out that keeps coming up. First of all, a licensee does not have to have or agree to an MOU.
Agreed.
And on the other hand, it's smart to do it. And we settle a lot of cases with MOUs where you have both sides in a full agreement. So that's why if they refuse to deal with you or negotiate with you, we have to know why you're opposed, your reasons for opposing the completion of the transfer is the way you put it. That's what I'm asking you. What specific reasons?
Again, they never gave us plans for what they were doing.
So you don't know?
We don't know what they're doing. And other than building layout, we don't know what's going in there. And so we want to have some community input into what is this exactly, and they've said, we can't tell you.
Okay,
And
so that's your reason.
Our objection, we said, our default position in Charles North
There's
is,
nothing wrong with it, I'm just
Right.
trying to find out what it is.
and our default position is we oppose until somebody comes and tells us what they're doing. And then we support or we oppose, depending upon what they do. They didn't tell us anything except we're doing this building, and we said, okay, then we're going to oppose unless you work with us
I
on
mean,
this
what about-
MOU.
What about the thing that council said with respect to you really getting rid of, you're really getting rid of an eyesore in the neighborhood? What about that?
And we have said again and again, we want to see this building back in productive use. We just want to negotiate some terms that protects the community. We have residents all around there. We have other businesses around there. We have parking issues. We have all sorts of concerns. There are URO issues regarding the facade of the building. We're responsible for working with the planning department to work through those if any variances are needed. And we've
See,
said.
this is 2000 block of North Charles Street, right near North Avenue.
2,000 block, yes. Yes, yeah, the Charles North URO governs this area. Charles North Community Association is responsible for upholding that URO. And, you know, we've said, we just want to address the community's concerns, work with us. And their final answer, if you read any of that email, is here's where you can stick your MOU.
Any questions?
One, there was an MOU originally agreed upon, correct?
There were 3 terms.
Right. Okay, and that hasn't been altered.
It has not been altered,
All right,
but one term of it was violated by
Well, let me-
the applicants.
So that was original, and originally you were here in favor in December of 2012, is that correct?
We were.
And you're not the only community group in that area, is that correct?
We are the community group of record for that address.
All right, but there are other people there that have a concern. You mentioned Old Goucher, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay. No, ma'am?
Yes, I am
Your
I'm
name?
Jean Knight.
Your name?
Jean Knight, and in December 2012, at that point, I was the president of the Old Goucher Community Association. I am not that any longer. However, I was also on the Charles Village Land Use Committee, and
Which
Charles
village? Charles.
Village Land Use Committee. Charles North participates in that. I had read into the record the agreement that Mr. Kaminsky is referring to at the Liquor Board hearing. We were very much in support of somebody doing something with this building because it has been an eyesore and it is in a problem area. However, since then,
Actually, it's an area that's sort of coming back, isn't it?
it is, and we want it to come back in a great way. We were concerned after a couple of years that, I would have a phone call occasionally from Ian or an email from Christopher that something would happen in the next couple of months, but things weren't happening. I understand they got in quite over their heads. And we would,
So what's your position today?
my position right now is, we would be willing to support something if we knew what it was we were supporting. It could be a Hooters for all we know that they're planning on putting in there. They haven't given us a plan.
All right, here's my
We
plan. I
don't
wanna
know
hear
what they
the
want.
Testimony of all of you, and then I'm going to let the commissioners ask questions. Your name, ma'am?
Sandy Sparks. I'm the president of the Charles Village Civic Association and participated on the Charles Village Land Use Committee, which was reviewing the early stages of this
And what's your
project.
position today? Your position?
So I'm also now the chair of the new Greater Charles Village Land Use Council.
Tell the 3 commissioners what your position is.
So the position is, I've been an observer of this, and we have, seen the presentations at those meetings, and there is no solid evidence of what a plan is. We've seen some basic architectural renovation drawings, but we do not know what the actual business plan is for this.
So your position is pretty much the same as,
Yes.
you don't know what's going on.
We don't know what's going on.
Questions?
No questions.
All right, commissioners, questions to anybody?
I've got some more people wanting to testify very briefly, though.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear all the evidence, and then we'll have the commissioners' questions.
Take that microphone over, it's easier. Give your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Kelly Cross. I live at 2309 Maryland Avenue, so about 2 blocks up from the property. I am the president of the Old Goucher Community Association. Our internal boundaries go from 20th Street in the south to 27th Street in the north, Howard to Guilford. I say first off that I'm very surprised and disappointed to see Ms. Sparks and Ms. Knight here speaking on behalf of community, when in fact the Old Goucher membership deeply resents Charles Village's continued interaction and involvement in land use affairs. We're still an active group, yes. We're a very active group. We have been.
You're president.
I'm president, correct. Largely responsible, I think, for a lot of the resurgence that you've seen in Old Goucher.
Your irritation is that Charles Village, they don't belong that far down Charles Street, or what?
Oh, that's correct. They do not.
You're wrong. The boundaries of Charles Village Civic Association go all the way down to 21st Street, and I was president of the Charles Village Civic Association when we had the opportunity to reconsider our boundaries, and we specifically voted to continue our boundaries as they were, specifically because we did not want to turn our back on a portion of Charles Village that was in much, much need, and we wanted to be part of the renaissance that was occurring in that area. So you are wrong. You are absolutely wrong when you say what the boundaries are, and don't cut me off. But we're not here to fight about what is a dispute between Old Goucher and Charles Village Civic Association. That is not a fight for this place. We are here to understand what is or is not happening with the plans for a liquor establishment at that address, period. That is all we are here to do. You will make me more than angry if you bring a dispute here between these organizations. It has no place. It makes me unhappy, and I don't want to be unhappy. I want to resolve this issue with clarity and obedience to the law, period.
Okay, now tell us what your position is.
My position is that we strongly support both the extension of the transfer of the liquor license as well as the initial transfer of the license. We believe that that area desperately needs more nighttime establishments, needs bars, needs bars, restaurants, nighttime establishments. That part of our neighborhood dies after 5 p.m. And that it is in desperate need of resurgence. And we've seen Mr. Parrish's plans. We like his plans. We agree with his plans. We have not been kept in the dark about his plans. And you know, I'm sorry that you have such strong feelings about Charles Village and about.
I live in Charles Village. I like Charles Village. I don't have any issues with Charles Village. I also don't have any issues with Old Goucher. I respect all of the organizations. In fact, there's no community association that I have negative feelings about. I just want to understand what is happening with this address and the intent to establish a liquor establishment at that address. That's all we're here to decide. And that's all we're here to decide.
Feelings about, you know, apparently you know what's going on in our community.
Folks, let's get off that subject.
Yeah, it's of
She
no.
apparently has very strong feelings about that.
All right,
So
now, do you have anything else to say with
I
respect?
didn't open the door.
Well, I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I just want to get to the issues.
Well,
So,
I can certainly say that, you know, at a minimum, there is very much a split in communities on this issue. It is not accurate to say that that the community does not support the transfer or the extension of this license. In fact, many of the residents of that block, there are about a dozen that I can think of off the top of my head who live directly adjacent to that building, are also members of the Old Goucher Community Association. So there are actually some overlap blocks between Old Goucher and Charles North, as well as between Old Goucher and Charles Village.
We're spending so much time on this, and I don't want to spend any.
it's not relevant.
Sure.
All right, anything else on the issue of the license? Do you have anything else?
No, we strongly support it.
Okay,
All right, one more. and I'll-
Okay.
You got the, state your name and address for the record. For the microphone.
Christopher S. Willoughby.
you gotta come over to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Christopher S. Willoughby.
All right, and
How do
you,
spell Willoughby?
Willoughby, W-I-L-L, the Irish way, Your Honor. W-I-L-L-O-U-G-H-B-Y,
and you have been associated with this project from the very beginning, is
from
that
the very
correct?
beginning.
And you've,
What is your job with respect to it?
I'm the special advisor to the Parrish family of companies, but in this instance, I was called in at the very beginning because of my experience in restaurant management and construction.
all right, and in regard to the statements about people being advised as to the plans and so forth, what is your reply to that?
Well, I think the question here is what plan are we talking about? Ian and Charles Parrish have been in negotiation with several management groups, and by the way, including myself when I was considering taking this business on my own. And that negotiation with management groups in terms of the restaurant itself is still ongoing. So but the building plan is for a first floor assembly area in compliance with the liquor license and second and third floor commercial structures that are not part of that assembly area. In other words, the plan for that business is exactly as it was before in terms of footprint and in terms of specifications. So I'm not clear on what they're talking about in terms of, or what kind of business are we going to put in there? The answer is, I don't know that we've made a final determination on that, but I think we can say that the business will be based on the good character of the people who are going to own it.
Okay? All right, now I want to open it up to the commissioners, all the parties. Go ahead.
So you're Charles Willoughby? Christopher Willoughby, and your email address is dia@investorsunited.com.
correct.
And you actually authored an email Friday, January 23rd, 2015, 8:25 p.m. And it starts, Alan, I loved your MOU. I laughed and laughed.
That's correct.
I have to say, the addition of the paragraph that outlines our supposed transgressions,
Yes,
despite the fact that they've already been thoroughly refuted,
Yes.
was a nice touch,
Yes.
especially if you really, really don't want us to sign the thing.
That's correct.
At least you labeled it as an agreement, which is closer to calling that dog by its real name than you've ever gotten before.
Yes, ma'am. I
Though
said
you
all
still
of those.
apparently don't know the building's actual address.
Yes.
All right, and what was your point in that? Was that your way of working with the community to
Well,
to reach an agreement?
I think that when that statement, when that first paragraph is taken as it is, it seems fairly egregious, and I admit to that.
It's pretty nasty.
It is, but when it is taken
It's
in the
also the
light,
opposite of working together to
When it is
to
ta-
reach an agreement. You
I
understand
agree.
that, right?
and when it is taken in the light of what was contained in the modification of the MOU, which is not which was not handed to you by Mr. Mlinarchik, but which is in the file. When it's taken in the light of what was contained in that modification to the MOU, which basically accuses the Parrish family of doing lots of things they hadn't done, and allows them to modify the MOU, and is also taken in the light of what we were told by the original author of that MOU, a woman named Sharon Guida, who I understand is not here today. When we were told whether or not we should be able to negotiate in this matter, whether we could sit down at a table and actually talk to people about it, an email was delivered to me, which is in your file and which you can review, which says, no, there's no need to talk anymore. You just tell us, you scratch out what you don't like, and you send us what you do. And I'd like you also to note, members of the board, please, that we didn't fail to respond, and we didn't cut off negotiations. We sent them back a fully formed document that was our version of the MOU that included all of the original points that had been made during the documentation and were read into the record at the original hearing. All of which, by the way, are also in your file.
Well, I think the main issue, well, I don't want to interrupt the commissioner's questions, but I think the main issue still is whether the law allows, I'm not going to ask for any comments on it.
And we agree, and if I may make one comment.
So, I mean, I don't want to get into all these battles over MOUs, which are not even required.
I completely agree, Your Honor. And if I may just say one matter, one
more thing, then I want to go back to questions.
Absolutely. And again, as a layman, I can't speak much to the law, but I can say this, that if this matter were not designed to be interpreted, again, as a layman, then there would be no need for a hearing.
I don't understand that. What are you saying?
The
Just in
100
plain English.
If the 180-day rule was not meant to be interpretive, then why not have every single person who went past it simply lose their license?
We do that. And that is what's at risk
That's
here.
exactly what's happening.
That's what's happening. You're right.
Without a hearing?
This is the
No,
hearing.
not- This is,
This is the hearing, and this is open. It's broadcast on YouTube.
I recognize.
This is very much at risk of being lost. And you'll have to get a new license or find some other way to get a new license. But that's what's at issue, and that's why this level of arrogance in communications is concerning, because you're not really focusing on the real issues. This license is effectively dead. And if you can give us something that revives it, that shows that it should be revived, we need to see it. And I think that the chairman has said he's going to give your attorney an opportunity to present legal memorandum that supports a finding that the license is not dead, but that's really the issue here. You should ask your attorney.
Somebody said something, I don't know who it was. You?
Mr. Parrish.
No, I don't want to go back and open up all this. I just, commissioners' questions, that's where we are. Any other questions?
I have none. I think we basically said it already. We're gonna hold our decision until the summary report is given by the attorney.
Yeah, this battle
And
between.
we just listened to the community express themselves, but there's no need for me to ask you any questions at this point.
All right, any other questions?
No,
None?
no.
All right, folks, when was the how much time do you need for your memorandum?
10 days.
Well, next week we're not meeting at
So
all.
2 weeks.
You want us to go
It's March
back
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
What, the 26th?
The 26th, but, okay, we'll make sure you have time, because
All right,
don't you have,
commissioners, you okay
you have
with
time?
that?
Yeah, that's fine, I just want to make sure that you're okay.
Let's get this done.
As far as
Let's get it
the morning, then, the 26th, because you have the afternoon, right? That's the issue.
Now, I'm gonna give you all, so I don't want to.
Yes, sir.
Copy, but I do want a copy of his memorandum.
Yes, sir.
And I know the other two commissioners do, too.
Yes, I will need it before,
And
the Friday
also, I
before.
want you to give it to Tom
Yes, sir.
to do a little
Yes, sir.
research based on what he says.
He always gets a copy of the docket, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks, you're excused.
All right,
2
thank
weeks
you.
from today.
Thank you.
Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know where these emails came from.
All right.
Do I keep them, or do you have them?
Call the next case.
Put 'em in the file, either way. It's potato, potato.
I'll hold on to them. I'll go patata on you.
Yes, sir. It's Hong Kui Shi, Yu Fin Zhang, VNA Mini Market, Inc. This is called Max Deli at 1301 Bayard Street. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor, transfer of ownership.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the applicants, Gary Maslin Rothwell, on behalf of the applicants. Our client this is a transfer, they met with the citizens of Pigtown. I have a letter of support from the citizens of Pigtown. They're not only buying this business, they're also buying the building. I'll just read into the letter the applicable provisions. It's a very flattering letter. It says, Mr. Shi has presented himself to be a responsible business owner, and his commitment to the neighborhood seems sincere. There have been no calls for service to the police department for this address. Neighbors in this immediate vicinity have stated that the establishment is a well-run business and has not been problematic. In closing, I strongly urge you to approve the liquor license transfer requested so that Mr. Shi can move on with his business plans that are mutually beneficial for both the owner and the community. There's a letter of support that's there. Mr. Shi has also, exhibit B would be his certificate of.
That's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3.
I'd represent to you also that they are familiar with the rules and regulations of this board. We would submit their articles, a certificate for their corporation.
Number 5.
I would present that they are fit and proper people to have this license. They do have experience in the sale of alcoholic beverages, and we'd ask the board to approve this transfer.
All right. Questions of the commissioners?
Did they actually meet with the citizens of Pigtown?
Absolutely.
They attended a meeting,
Yes.
presented their credentials? Yes, yes.
They had a meeting.
Okay.
This building, they're buying both the business and the building. The building is a rundown building. It's their intent to actually redo the building, the interior, and ultimately move into the community once all the renovations have been completed.
Right, and do we have the current owner and the transferees here today? Or-
You do not. They are an elderly Korean couple. I don't believe they were able to attend.
You have your clients here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my rule is that all licensees have to appear. Now, the question is, do you want to tell us why? I should ignore the fact that one of the licensees is not here.
The, do you know where the Korean couple is? I know they're an elderly couple. It's difficult to communicate with them. They don't speak English very well. They have a Korean attorney. Other than the fact that they're elderly and not available to be here, or I can't explain that. There may be a communication issue.
Well, Commissioners, what do you want me to do about that? Violating our rule? You want me to postpone it, make them come in, or waive it?
Postpone it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Commissioners, they did meet with.
Supposed to have the commissioners, the licensees here. Counsel?
I understand that is your regulation. I respect it, but given the age of this individual, their lack of English, and the fact that my
You want me to
clients
put in
went.
the regulation that if people can't speak English, then they don't have to come? If they're elderly, they don't have to come? How many other things you want me to put in there that they don't have to come? That's not the purpose. This is a liquor license transfer, and it's a serious business, and that's why I have placed a regulation in the rule book that both sides of the transfer must be present. Now, if somebody's out of the country, and the other case earlier today, I did make an exception there because I was told ahead of time about the problem. And I made the decision ahead of time, but I wasn't told about your problem. And I feel that, Commissioner, you say we postpone?
Absolutely, and the fact that the sellers have counsel.
Are you okay with that?
Who is,
Just wonder if it's a I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, the sellers have an attorney, so they can appeal. They have a Korean attorney who can probably speak for them, translate, and
Well, no, we have to have, my rule is that the licensee themselves have to be present. If they can't speak English, then if they want us to understand what they're saying, they have to have a translator. We don't provide translators, not our job to. This is a privilege operation, not a constitutional right under the First Amendment. You know that.
I understand that. It just creates a little bit of a hardship on these people to have to come back again.
well, if they have a hardship, they can send in a letter or through their counsel, explain what it is, and we can consider whether there could be an exception.
Right.
But we can't go with like nothing. We can't go with nothing. That's not.
And knowing the rule, Counselor, in advance, it shouldn't be the day off. In advance, you should present that to us in letter and let us make a decision as to whether or not we agree that the documentation discloses enough information for us to say, well, okay, we will omit that in this case.
I'll try and get in touch with their attorney, and we'll get in touch with them, and we'll come back. What day did you want to set it back in?
I can put you on 3/26 at the top of the docket.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
All right. What would that be? March 26th,
Now,
okay.
and on the issue itself, any other questions? So that the only issue would be the licensee himself, or them, when they come back. Is there anything else that the commissioners want to ask with respect to the actual details of the transfer? So we can excuse anybody else that doesn't want to come.
I guess my standing question is, this is a liquor establishment that is currently open and operating and has been open and operating since August 8, 2014, when we last inspected.
It has that close.
Okay.
Just so you understand, it's a beer and wine license only. This is not it's not a liquor store. It's a convenience store that has a beer and wine component.
Okay.
It is not a huge volume of liquor that's sold out of there. It's merely a beer and wine license.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not and the community is extremely happy with these folks and the way the store is run and their plans. So, but
Okay.
we'll do that.
Okay. And the only issue then is with the yeah.
We'll be behind any of the contentious little litigation that goes on here. Thank you.
I think if you were here in my place, you'd want the licensees here too.
Maybe. I've seen this licensee, Judge. She's
All right, folks,
All right, thank you.
Gary's beautiful.
You know, I had a photographer today. You knew about all
No,
that?
I did not.
Well, the Sun Papers called. Folks were into German. All right. The
1 or 1:15?
1 o'clock. What time is it?
It's 12:30.
12:30.
Oh, 1:15, excuse me.
1:15.
Okay, that's fine. We'll be fine.
The Sun Papers called me yesterday, Jock Kelly. And he
Oh, I
wanted
love Jock
to-
Kelly.
You know how they write stories on the, so
Yeah.
I had to go out to the Irish Museum this morning to get my picture taken. And I didn't feel like going home and changing clothes afterwards. I just came here.
I'm glad.
That's
It's
why I have
very
it.
nice, very nice.
I have it for direct reason.
Yes, looks good.
All right, folks, I'll see you this afternoon.
Yeah. Go find somewhere, okay, I'm gonna find somewhere close. See if I have any.
Swear them in if you're gonna have to. Swear the witnesses, please. Swear all witnesses. Go ahead. Listen to.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, present your case.
Your Honor, after speaking with defense counsel, I have a preliminary. We're going to be dismissing count 6, which is the restroom violation. I had spoken with our Chief Inspector Jones.
307, right?
307, yes, count 6, 307. Inspector Jones has gone to the property yesterday, I believe, and inspected the bathroom. The bathroom is now up to code and working properly.
That one's dismissed. Go ahead.
Your Honor, after speaking with defense counsel, we're going to be going forward today with an admission. Preliminarily, I'm going to be introducing the evidentiary file, which is in the case file, into evidence right now. And it contains about 6 exhibits, Your Honor.
Okay, mark it. Go ahead.
Your Honor, it's been agreed and stipulated, and this is over the course of a number of dates, so I'll just get with it. It's been agreed and stipulated that the Comptroller's Office received a complaint by former employee of ISIS LLC, trading as ISIS Lounge at 226 through 228 Park Avenue in Baltimore City, Maryland. As part of the investigation, Agent Tanis, who's standing to my left, interviewed Corey Moody, who claimed to be the operator of the establishment. And this occurred on December 5th, 2014. The interview occurred at approximately 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the offices of the Comptroller. Mr. Moody produced a signed agreement stating that he was allowed to manage the business in exchange for $2,000 per month in pay. As of yet, Mr. Moody's financial interest has not been formally disclosed to the board in writing, nor has an application been made to reflect Mr. Moody's financial interest in the license. On December 19th, 2014, at approximately 8 p.m., the Baltimore City Police Department, the Comptroller's Office, and inspectors from the Baltimore City Liquor Board responded to the establishment to conduct an investigation into the business practices of ISIS Lounge. On this date, inspectors found that the operator had purchased tobacco products without paying proper taxes, failed to maintain accurate records of alcohol purchases. I believe there were 27 bottles of distilled spirits in question via incomplete invoices, failed to purchase the alcohol from a wholesaler, failed to maintain accurate employee records, and that is it, since we're dismissing the bathroom matter. All events occurred in Baltimore City, state of Maryland. That would be the state's case. Right. The
All right,
liquor
so
board
see if I
case.
get this straight. The violations on December 5th, was failure to pay the proper taxes, is that it?
December 5th was the ownership and operation charge, where Inspector Tanis had met with Mr. Moody and there was a document produced indicating that.
Oh, he hadn't revealed it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's when the document was revealed to.
All right, now the next one, the records and illegal conduct revolve out of the taxes?
Yes, the illegal conduct has to do with the hookah bar, Your Honor. There weren't accurate records that were kept up to the health code. I spoke with Attorney Smith about that particular matter. So that's illegal conduct because it was in violation of the health code. The Rule 3.03 had to do with the records concerning the 27 bottles of distilled spirits. There's supposed to be invoices. There weren't proper invoices. In terms of violation of 4.10, the relationships with wholesalers, those 27 bottles.
Same thing again.
Correct, but On the other side of it, they're supposed to be buying from wholesalers. In this case, there was no evidence that they bought from wholesalers. Most likely, they were bought through retail, Your Honor, so it was a violation of 4.10. And
But I mean,
also-
the records that you're referring to in the first is the same as the records you're referring to in the second
Yes,
chart.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
And then lastly, the last records violation, which was in regards to the employee files, Your Honor.
Yeah, they're supposed to,
They're supposed to keep employee records, and there were no employee records
Okay.
on site at the time. And as I said, we're dismissing count 6.
all right, counsel, as you accept those facts as facts in your cases, do you have any additions or corrections?
Yes, Your Honor, we do have
Go ahead.
some additions. as
Go,
a
use the
result
mic.
of we do have some additions as a result of my talk with counsel.
All right, go ahead.
And may we present
Sure.
that by way of a witness at this
Mhm.
juncture, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
We swore the witnesses
Yes,
already.
you did.
Mhm.
Would you please come up? Would you please state your name? Corey Moody. And Mr. Moody, just a little bit about your background. Would you please tell the members of this commission what you do for a living?
I work at a bar. I work at Isis Lounge, and I work at Pier 5 Parking.
All right. And in terms of,
raise the mic up
yes, it's necessary for you to project your voice so that we can have an accurate record of what's going on.
All right.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. All right. How long have you worked at ISIS?
Since September 2014.
Do you have a management agreement?
Yes.
Or the managerial agreement?
Yes, as far as I know.
All right. And that agreement, however, is in the process of being terminated as a result of these proceedings. Is that correct?
Yes.
And another agreement has been proposed to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe that counsel has put into the record our proposed termination of Mr. Moody, as well as a proposed managerial agreement that we have. But yes, I'll submit it anyway so that the commissioners will have it for their records. I do have copies for each one
Okay.
of the commissioners.
Yep. Everybody?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, where's the licensee here?
The licensee is here, Your Honor.
Okay.
She'll be next.
All right.
Yes. Now, let me ask you something, sir. You've heard that you didn't have any employee records when the Comptroller's Office representative came to the bar on December the 5th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you please tell the members of the commission why that was? What occurred?
When he came in, he said, do you have employee records? I said, no. Am I supposed to have something? He said, anybody that's in here that's supposed to be working, you should have a record of them. Copy of driver's license, social security number.
Long and short, you didn't
Right.
have it. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. Have you taken any remedial steps to correct that problem at this juncture?
No. Well, basically, they volunteered to work at the bar.
I understand.
And
But
I
even
didn't think that-
volunteers, you're supposed to have a record of volunteers as well as employees. You understand that? Because the problem is that the liquor board must keep track of anybody who is in contact with alcohol. You understand that?
Yes, I got a folder with their names on them,
But you had nothing in it to indicate their driver's license or any of the identity. Is that correct?
yes,
Now, you understand that that was a violation of your agreement with the owner? You
yes,
understand that? You understand that she's responsible for your failure to have those documents. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yes.
All right, let's go to this hookah business. Would you please tell the members of the commission why didn't you have any hookah records as it related to the health code?
Because we don't sell hookah. We don't sell hookah at all. It's for
It's what?
we have it in a part of the bar, but it's for me or the people that's there that's working there, clean up, whatever. If they want to smoke it, that way they won't have to go across the street and smoke.
So that's your explanation as to why you had three hookah pipes in the bar and why you had tobacco for those particular hookah pipes. Is that correct?
Yes, it was limited supply.
Now, you understand that those are taxable, that tobacco is a taxable commodity for the controller. You understand that?
Yes,
And if you have it in a bar, then it is to be regulated for tax purposes as well as health code purposes, correct? You
Yes.
understand that? All right. So that was a mistake that you made as well, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The 27 distilled bottles of spirit, tell the commission how that occurred and why was it that you had those 27 bottles of spirits without having the requisite connection with the distributor?
Well, I called the distributor probably 2 days prior, and they were supposed to come to the bar and call. On the invoice, on prior invoices, it says call 30 minutes prior to delivery, and I never received my delivery, never.
So you resorted to self-help?
Right.
And you know that that is incorrect?
Yes.
There are tax revenues involved, and I believe those tax revenues were somewhere in the neighborhood of $29. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And at this juncture, you understand that the owner is making that payment to the controller for those lost revenues. You understand that?
Yes.
But that's your responsibility
Responsibility, right.
based on your contract.
Yes.
You understand that? Yeah, right. Yeah, this is just a sample. Yeah, this is, you're not making the representation that this is what it was that you did, but that this is a sample that you.
Right.
Right. That's why you resorted to doing it not correctly.
Right.
Right. Now, you understand that agreements are required to be disclosed to this board, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and you didn't disclose your involvement in ISIS, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, let me ask you something. You saw that in the papers that the commission has, that the controller is concerned that you have a prior record for CDS. You understand that?
Yes.
And you understand why they're concerned about that, somebody who deals with alcohol,
Yes.
correct? What can you tell this board if you get another chance as to how you're going to run this place correctly?
Well,
Does he have a record?
Yes, he does, Your Honor. It's
And
in your
felony.
Yeah, it's in Well, then he
Possession
can't-
with the
he's not
intent to
allowed
distribute.
He's not allowed to have a license. You're right, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Right. It's possession with the intent to distribute marijuana. But nevertheless, it is a felony, and it's punishable by 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. You understand that?
Yes.
And that's why the controller's concerned about somebody who doesn't pay attention to the rules, who has a prior record, operating or managing a liquor establishment, because it's another drug. You understand that?
Yes.
All right. What are you going to do to assure this board and to assure the controller's office that has the responsibility to collect revenues that this is not going to happen again, sir, if you're given another shot?
I'm going to follow the guidelines.
First, you got to read them.
Right. I mean,
Do you
I
have
know-
a book?
Yes.
You're going to read it?
Yes.
All right. And you're going to follow?
Yes, I'm going to follow.
Witness with you, counsel.
How are we going to get around the felony conviction?
Well,
I mean, what's your argument there? He's not allowed to run a bar.
He's not allowed to have a license, Your Honor, but I don't think he can be prohibited
I
from
see.
being.
Just holding the license in his own name.
Right. He cannot have a license in his own name if he's a felon.
I see.
That is impossible to
But he
do.
doesn't have a license.
No, he does not have a license with this board.
Well, let me ask you this before I turn it over to my commissioners. And what about the fact he comes in here before a hearing and he still hasn't corrected his records?
Well, Your
And
Honor.
I'm hearing all these things. He did like he hasn't done anything. Why didn't he pay that ahead of time? Why doesn't he put all the names of the volunteer employees in the records ahead of time with the social security numbers and their addresses and all the other information that's required by law? Why didn't he do that before he came here?
I can tell you this, we have just had a come to, some of us understand this term, a come to Jesus meeting, and between he and I, and we have gone over the things that are necessary under the board's regulations. He has, in fact, he has a couple of the people here who were volunteers in order to show that they were volunteers. He did write out for the controller on that day a list, but that is incomplete, obviously. And
But you haven't answered my question.
Yes, he hasn't done it. That's answering your question, number one.
That is, yeah.
I'm in the process of doing it.
Yeah.
But when is he going to do it?
He says, Your Honor, that he's in the process of getting things together.
If I might just interject, he's not the licensee. These are all responsibilities of the licensee.
Correct.
It is Ms. Fordham's responsibility.
There's no doubt.
To make sure that these things are done. And this is her second visit here, this is her third visit here before this board.
There's no doubt.
She's silent, so hopefully.
Oh, no,
we'll
she's
get a
going to,
chance hear
oh,
from her.
she's going to be very
Because
vocal.
These are her responsibilities.
That's correct.
And they do not get delegated to this gentleman.
That's correct. But the controller's concern, I think, needed to be vented because he's sitting there and he's doing his job. And I wanted to make sure, along with the chief, that all knew where Mr. Moody was coming from. But you're absolutely right.
All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
You're not going to produce a license?
I am.
Okay, well, go
Yes.
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you step forward, please?
No questions for this witness.
Would you please state your name?
Elaine Fordham.
You've been here before. I recognize you.
This is the second time, yes. Well, the third time. The last time it was a postponement because I was just informed previous.
Didn't get served,
That is
as I
correct.
recall. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Ms. Fordham, you have a records violation before, is that correct?
That is a record?
Records, failure to have records?
No, this is the first time.
Okay. Okay. I thought I was right, yes.
When was it?
Records.
Oh, wholesalers, oh, that is correct.
Right, that's a
I thought you
records
meant-
violation. Now, you heard the Commissioner, Commissioner Moore say these are your responsibilities. And you understand that as the licensee, it is your responsibility to maintain records, obviously to pay the taxes that are due to the controller of the state of Maryland, as well as to maintain relationships with the wholesalers. And this hookah business is also your responsibility. You understand all that?
Yes, I understand.
And you understand that you must disclose to the board the ownership and the operation of any person who appears in your, under your authority and under your license.
I do now.
Well, what made you not understand that before?
Well, because when I called the liquor board and I made some inquiries about that, they just said, and, you know, if you want me to say a name, I can say a name, but I prefer not to. They just said, I spoke to Ms. Schroeder, and she indicated that I can do a managerial agreement. And what happened was no one gave me a formatted form as to how to construct it. So I took it upon myself and I created one.
Now,
Can I just very quickly-
yes, Your Honor.
When did you speak with Ms. Schroeder?
I spoke to Ms. Schroeder, this is 12, let me see, this is 15, 13, 12, I believe maybe 2011, 2012, because I was contemplating doing the same thing before and I didn't know what route to go, so I made inquiries.
Now, you've been a licensee for how long?
For 10 years.
All right. And other than this one instance in September, have you ever had any other violations? Did you operate the place yourself?
Yes, I did.
All right. And why is it that you're not operating it yourself now?
Well, because I'm taking care of my grandmother who's 101 years old.
And so your time management has changed for the benefit of your grandmother?
Yes, and my full-time job as well.
All right. Irrespective of that, you have to understand that you still have an obligation to the board and to the citizens of the city as well as the state to make sure that even when you have a manager, that things are to be appropriate. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
All right. And what steps, if any, are you going to take to make sure that that's the case?
I'm contemplating on not having a manager that I can resume it myself, depending on the situation to turn out here today. I entrusted Mr. Moody, you know, of course, everybody deserves a second chance, so I thought maybe that he would come in and he'd do a good job, which he had for a while, so I don't know what happened. Well, he explained to you what happened, but I believe in second chances, and I just wanted him to have the ability to operate a business.
What do you do?
I work for the post office.
All right. How long have
A
you worked for the
supervisor.
post?
I work for 20 years.
All right. You still employed there?
Yes.
All right. And in terms of your community involvement, I understand that you have a senior
Assisted
daycare,
living.
assisted living.
Mhm.
All right. And does that also take up any of your time presently, or are you on hiatus from that?
Hiatus
All right.
for now.
Now, on March 11th, you authorized me to send a termination of the managerial agreement with the manager who is there. Is that correct,
That is
Mr. Moody?
correct.
And you also authorized me to do a draft of a management agreement Is that correct?
That is correct.
What are you going to do differently to prevent Mr. Moody from getting you into the suit that you're in now?
I'm going to have to go down this weekend and look at all the records and document everything and put it and create my own file for anybody who's there, volunteers or anyone that's there.
You've already made out a check to the controller for the lost revenues that the agent has indicated occurred as a result of these 27 bottles of liquor and this tobacco, this hookah business. Is that correct?
Yes, but I left it in my car, but I can go and get it.
Thank you very much. The commissioners may have some questions, or council may have some questions.
I have no questions for this witness.
I guess, so, I got, just to be very honest, it sounds to me like, and I think you spoke truthfully when you said that you wanted to give him a second chance and a chance to own a business, and then you corrected it and said operate. And it sounds like that's how this has actually been run. You just stepped away and let Mr. Moody handle everything, and he didn't quite do it right, and that's why we learned about this change in operation. So how often do you go to the bar?
At least once a week.
All right, because I'm on social media. We're all on social media, and I've seen a lot of pictures of you at the bar enjoying the celebrations at the bar, but it sounds like you don't go to run any of the business of the bar. Does that sound right? Ravens celebrations, a lot of photos of you on Facebook at the celebrations, but there's nothing in anything that we have that says you're managing this business. You're aware of that, right?
Well, according to the managerial agreement, I thought that's what was given.
Okay, all right. And you heard the testimony about the personal use of the hookah and the tobacco. You heard that testimony from Mr. Moody?
I heard that, yeah.
And are patrons actually coming in and paying to use the hookah?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
But can I just say something regarding that? When I applied for my hookah's license, there was some sort of misunderstanding because the city didn't know how to classify hookah. So they didn't tell me anything about tobacco taxes or anything. The city sent me down to the fire department. The fire department sent me back to the city. And they said that they wasn't familiar with the process of hookah because it was new to the city. And they said that they would notify me in writing if, what needs to be done because they was not sure if taxes was going to be applied or not.
Mm-hmm. So with that, did you just go ahead and open up the hookah portion of the bar and let people use it or not use it?
I'm sorry, but it wasn't open to the public.
What does that mean, not open to the public?
We
Like
wasn't
you had to pay a
taking money from the people.
special fee to get to the hookah area?
Right, we wasn't taking money from people from the outside to come in like a private club or anything
All
like
right.
that. It was just for the volunteers if they wanted to, experience it.
Do you understand? That sounds absolutely ridiculous.
No, actually,
it really
doesn't.
does.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean-
Why do so people come in and they volunteer to work at your bar and you pay them with hookah? That doesn't. I mean,
didn't
I'm
say-
sorry
well,
that you
I
or you
mean-
let them have the hookah for their fun. It doesn't.
It's-
It doesn't
it's
ring.
free.
I will tell you, it doesn't ring true.
Okay.
It doesn't ring true. And that's the problem I'm having. I feel like Mr. Moody is misrepresenting the truth in that part of his testimony. It doesn't ring true at all. What is your residence address?
7403 Brompton Road.
Okay. And in your new application, you put as your residence 228 Park Avenue, second floor. Are you
Because
aware
I
of that?
Yes, I was staying up there at one time.
But that's not your residence now.
No, it's not.
All right, so we need to get that corrected because I think going forward, everything has to be truthful and accurate. And you have a very good attorney who I know will advise you correctly, but that on your renewal application is not correct, and we need that fixed.
Okay.
But you do own that that property, right?
I do.
All right, and you've owned it since at least 2004.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mhm.
All right, so I want to have that corrected.
Okay.
Those are all the questions I have right now.
I'll be very short. First of all, Mr. Moody can't own a liquor establishment on record or you acting as the owner and then trusting the business to him. He can't do it that way either. It's still your responsibility. It's yours. You own it. And you have to act accordingly. Anything he does that isn't correct, it falls on you. Just remember that part. regardless of whether or not the state, fire department, the city didn't tell you that you couldn't have a hookah bar, a hookah situation at your location. They may have told you that, but anything you do at their liquor establishment must be on permit, which means that you must get a permit for all the businesses or all the activities you have at that location. If you have a bar, you need to have it zoned as a bar. If you have dancing, it needs to be zoned as dancing. If you have hookah, you need to have it zoned as having that there also. Just remember that part.
Okay, well, it is licensed and occupancy.
It's zoned for that? But then, you know, once you get it zoned for that, what else you must? You must make the liquor board aware of it. That's the other part of that piece, okay? I'm through, Judge.
Okay. No other questions? This time, I'm going to ask you a rare question. What do you recommend in this case? Prosecutor?
Your Honor, if this is the second time this matter's come in, these are, records violations, Your Honor, and I think that, defense counsel and licensee need to kind of, or at least licensee and operator need to kind of come to an agreement as to who's going to be operating the bar. Your Honor, I would not necessarily support a suspension in this matter. I think a fine is appropriate, Your Honor, and I'll defer to the board as to a fine in this particular matter.
We have to straighten up this bureaucratic mess here. Nothing is, it seems to me, in listening to everything I've heard, that everything's the same. Nothing's changed. We still have the hookah going to the wrong people, under the wrong conditions. We still have the loss or lack of records of the volunteers, with quotes around that. And we still have, well, I don't know what the manager's status is, frankly. I don't know whether he's in or out. It's not clear to me. So what do you have to say about that?
The issues with management, Your Honor, are a concern, and I'm going to actually do, because I know Comptroller's office wanted to make some statements as to the manager issue, Your Honor, and I think that that's something that the board may want to hear. So let me defer for a moment to the Comptroller.
And before you go forward, I just want to read Chapter 3 of our Standards and Operations Rule 3.01 says, every licensee shall be the actual owner and operator of the business conducted on the licensed premises. So how do we have an operator who's not, our rules don't allow someone else to be the operator.
And that's why we brought this particular charge, because somebody else was operating without the board's consent, without the board's knowledge. And Mr. Smith and I had spoken about that, and the issue that when we were talking about this particular case, the issue is, Your Honor, now Mr. Smith is presenting, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, Mr. Smith is presenting a management agreement to the board for their review to allow Mr. Moody to run the business. Is that correct or incorrect?
To consider it.
To consider it.
Okay.
Now, if the board
I don't
does,
see how we don't have the authority to do so under our own
well,
rules.
under the regulation, it states that you can have a management agreement if it's presented to the board in writing.
And where's that?
That's,
Is there
look at 310.
301, 301,
3.01, Your Honor.
employee,
The identity of any person not a licensee having a financial interest in said business shall be disclosed to the board in writing. A management agreement, which, I think that this management agreement was $2,000 a month, is that correct?
Yes.
$2,000 a month, that is a financial interest, Your Honor, and it was not disclosed to the board in writing. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
was
And
he giving her 2,000 or was she giving him
no,
2,000?
it was the other way around. He was paying her $2,000 a month. So
I
that's the
see.
financial interest, and it wasn't in writing. So that's why he was brought under 3.01. Now, the issue is to the management structure. That's something that the licensee has to deal with. If this board isn't willing to consider and allow for that financial interest to take hold due to concerns that the board may have, I think it's incumbent upon the licensee to, frankly, get her act together. And
if you look at the agreement, Your Honor, I have taken care of that problem in drafting the agreement. That is to say that there is a percentage which is given to him for his managerial services. other words, the money is flowing from an account that is in ISIS LLC Incorporated, LLC, which is going to him as payment for his services. That's the proper way to do it.
And is he now, I mean, we just got this, so is he gonna pay her anything?
No, that's not how it works. All monies are sent to the ISIS account. He pays the rent from that account and everything else in management of that business. He also pays himself the agreed upon 50% in the agreement. This agreement has been approved by other jurisdictions, not ours, but that's why I gave it to you to take a look at, because I drafted it from a case that I have in New Jersey.
So, just a few more questions. So, under this agreement, he's gonna get basically a salary,
Basically, for his management, yes.
and then he's gonna pay ISIS Lounge bank account for renting
No.
the space?
No, all of the money goes, no.
All of what money?
All of, any money that, let's say I come in and I buy a sarsaparilla.
Oh, please. Could you at least make it a mint julep?
I think I'm showing my age when I say sarsaparilla.
I want to be there when you make that purchase. I've known you a long time, Ed.
All right.
All right,
Well,
so, anyway.
all of the money goes into the LLC account, everything.
As it should.
Right. From that account, the manager then pays all of the overhead expenses. One of the overhead expenses is his salary for managing the bar. So he doesn't pay anything because everything belongs to that LLC account.
Mm-hmm.
That's precisely what it is. That takes care of that problem where he is giving her money.
And is he a signatory on that account?
He will be based on this agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So he will have the authority to write checks out of that
He
account?
will.
And that's cured on the fact that he has a record with respect to having the account be the person instead of him.
Yeah. He doesn't have any conviction for, well, dishonesty in distribution is in fact, as you know, can be a matter that involves dishonesty. There's no doubt about that, but possession with the intent to distribute, we might be just, hashing words. But yes, Your Honor, that's the way the agreement is structured.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a familial relationship between Mr. Moody and
No, Your
the licensee?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now, how do we know all this is going to be done?
Well, I've drafted it, and I think my suggestion is this, because I understand and I hear the concern of the board, I hear concern of all of the commissioners. Why don't, if we can give this a week so that the controller's office can come into the bar, see what it is that is going on, and also look at the agreement to see if they agree with it for the protection of the revenues. Because I'm concerned with the revenues, as the controller's office should be concerned with the revenues. That seems to me to be the big problem. We find out if he has everything in order, and then she can make a decision as to whether or not she wants to offer him the management agreement that I've drafted as opposed to the managerial agreement that she drafted. In all due respect, I think mine is better, but I think that
Why didn't you do all that before today?
I did it before today, but I was just, I just came into the case.
But
so.
you represent her.
I do. But I also represent ISIS LLC, and in the best interest of the corporation, she is the president of the corporation. It has its own identity, as you know, Your Honor. So I'm looking out for the best interest of the corporation and the revenues of the state.
All right, so what do you have to say that we should do?
Your Honor, I do believe, and I would agree with counsel, that a fine needs to be given. I would ask that the court hold this matter in advance for inspections within 30 days to make sure that there is no hookah, to make sure that the revenue streams and the information attached to all of those things are done, and that the controller can certify to this board that those things exist.
And if they aren't done?
Then there needs to be some stronger measures.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had the comptroller wants to say something? I'll be glad to hear from you.
Correct, Your Honor. I'm going to be presenting Agent Wayne Tanis.
I'm Major Wayne Tanis, employed by the Comptroller of Maryland Field Enforcement Division.
Mm-hmm.
I became involved in this case looking at the management agreement and the company. And I became concerned about the management agreement because of the manager's prior criminal history. As of August 2014 was his last arrest for attempt to distribute CDS. 2 weeks after that, the comptroller's office did an inspection on it and found alcohol from other than a wholesaler. Mr. Moody was on location at that time in August. So when I came back to do an inspection in December, it's still Mr. Moody on location. And discussing the business with him, he said he had full control of the business. And he would only make contact with Ms. Fordham by emails. When I went for the records, they weren't there. When people are buying from other than a wholesaler, we don't have the records to substantiate the sales of the business to collect sales and use tax for their account. In fact, no reports have been filed by the company since April of 2014, and I've turned that over for an audit. But my largest concern is the management agreement with Mr. Moody as being a convicted felon and involved in the controlled dangerous substance field. I have reservations about that, taking over a alcohol establishment in Baltimore City.
What do you recommend?
I recommend that Mr. Moody is not the manager of the business, that some other arrangement is made with another person because of his criminal history.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, that's very interesting as a proposition, and I can understand and appreciate the position. Reasonable minds can differ, of course, and people, because they have prior records who prove themselves, should not be barred from gainful employment. I think if you look at what the legislature has done recently with respect to marijuana, there seems to be an effort not only in matters involving marijuana, but in the attempt to try to expunge records to get people back to work who can show themselves to be gainfully employed. Now, there's no doubt that Mr. Moody has cut corners, and he has been in some ways not totally forthcoming on some issues. But I think Mr. Moody, as an unconstructed individual, can do better. And that's what second chances are all about. There is no prohibition against anybody being a manager there with a liquor license. A person cannot have a liquor license, but he can be a manager, he can be a bartender, he or she, and I understand Norma Ray's may be a bad example of that, but there are bars that have people who have been involved in criminal activity, and they've changed their lives around. I think Mr. Moody is trying, but he needs to try a lot harder in order to do this. Now, you can say, if you want, and I think it would probably be considered to be somewhat of a problem, you can say, Moody, you're out. We don't want you there anymore. And that's, of course, up to you, but I think that may be some kind of violation of the Constitution. And as you know, the Constitution is something that I believe in. So I can't suggest that to you, Your Honors, and I would not suggest it to you.
All right, anything else?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No.
It seems to me that in this case, I'm not going to put it off. I'm going to go right to the issue, and that is fines, and he has to go. Mr. Moody's got to go. You're going to have to find somebody else. I don't like his failure to be prompt and have everything in order today when you're in here again. There's been so much warning for you to know that we're going to be looking at all these issues, and you haven't. I mean, it hasn't been done. He hasn't even identified the volunteers. In this hookah business, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. And I'm going to, my decision is based on that. So therefore, with respect to 301 ownership, what's the fine? What's the recommended fine there?
Your Honor, this is the second conviction, Your Honor. So it can be a fine up to $3,000 per.
Okay, well, that's a comptroller. Since I'm going to cure it by getting rid of Mr. Moody, and no offense, $1,000 with respect to 418 and 303. I think they merged, don't they? Really? The $1,000. I'm going to merge them. And with respect to violation of 4.10 wholesalers. And is that the names? Where, I've lost track of. 4.10 relationship.
That's 27 bottles of distilled spirits, Your Honor.
Yes, and then we have that repeated?
No, Your Honor. So 4.18 was the illegal conduct. That was the hookah. That was the violation of health code.
Mm-hmm.
3.03, I believe, and 4.10 would merge. That's what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe that's what you're talking about because those both involve the 27 bottles.
All right, so $1,000 on the other one, but then this merger of these bottles, I'm going to make it concurrent, I mean, the $1,000 concurrent with 4.18 and 303. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
All right, now with respect to records,
That was the employee record.
that's the employees' records. All right, I think we've, the severe penalty of getting rid of the manager, I'll make it $500. And we have the last charge dismissed. And that means how much time do you need to get another manager?
Your Honor, I would ask that you allow us at least 60 days to do that.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna give you 60 days.
Yeah, we did terminate the contract.
I
So,
know, but I'm not gonna give you 60
30
days.
days?
30 days. 30 days to carry out the terms. And how about the fines? How much time do you need?
Your Honor, if we would, 30 days would be appropriate.
So 30 days on all of them.
Yeah. Unless you're inclined to give us 60 on the fines.
Yeah, I'll give you 60 on the fine, I'm asking you.
Okay, great, yeah, 60.
All right, now, I'm only one vote.
Well, I know, but they seem to like you a lot.
Well, we don't know, we're gonna,
Don't be fooled.
don't be fooled. The appearances are deceptive. All right, that's my vote.
I just need to get clarity. So it's 1,000 for the 3.01 ownership and operation,
Mm-hmm,
1,000 for 4.18 illegal conduct,
mm-hmm.
and then for the next two, 3.03 and 4.10, that's 1,000.
Concurrent.
Concurrent. No, what do you mean concurrent?
They're merged. I'm assuming he's just
It's
merged.
so essentially it's
One-
1,000 for both of those.
Right, but he's saying concurrent, so it's only 1,000.
It runs at the same time as the other fine, which means he doesn't have to pay anything. And $500, not concurrent. Go ahead.
All right.
That's my vote.
What are you saying, 3,500 or 2,500?
1,500.
No, the total vote, the total fines are 2,500. That's what it amounts to.
Okay. All right. Well,
And of course, the 30 days. You have to get rid of Mr.
yeah,
Manager.
so
New manager.
I agree.
And I mean, when I say new manager, I mean, he's not going to be hidden in some kind of legal agreement and you understand he has to be gone.
I understand what your ruling is, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Can't even be a volunteer.
Not even as a volunteer, an unpaid volunteer. Yeah. So, yeah, so here's my trouble with this, and I've known you a long time. You may not have known me or even of me, but I've been
From the days of Marcella Hall.
right from the Monumental City Bar Association, and I've always held you in great regard, and I think you're a great attorney. And so there is great lawyering here, and I know that you've advised them well. I'm sure you've advised them well, and yet we still are here today with the exact same cabal of problem as we did when when the owner came in here breathless because she was called in before this board and didn't know anything about it, and we gave her more time. And all of the problems that are cited are the kinds of things that people do when they're trying to hide something. When you don't have a record, when there's no trail, when there's no follow-up, when there's no way to really tease out what's really going on. All of that is what you see when people are trying to hide something. And the only reason we're here is because there was a disgruntled either employee or volunteer who made a call. And otherwise we wouldn't know. And that's just not how we should be operating. And there's still no records. There's still the personal use hookah, the alcohol. it's just all still going on. And so clearly, and I believe in second chances. That is the work that my husband does, is helping make sure that people with criminal records get another chance to be productive members of society. But when that chance is presented and not taken advantage of, but rather taking advantage of, the negatives of opportunity, this is wrong. And I think that we have an absentee licensee who's allowed a lot of this to go on, and it's really concerning. And I know that when you leave here today, you will have more of the woodshedding and come to Jesus conversations. You must. But for now, it's a frightening cocktail of problems. And so therefore, I don't support Mr. Moody staying in place, and I do support the fines, and I find this regretful.
Yes, Your Honor, there is a MLS agreement for the sale of the property. It is up for sale.
Is it?
Yes, it has been since January, and that is in your file.
And so I'll just say this. Once that property is sold, she no longer
Absolutely.
is a Baltimore City property owner, and so therefore is no longer eligible to have this license.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, hopefully there'll be a package deal with somebody who you will approve to keep the license in place, this not being the 45th district.
Well, wherever we are.
No, I mean,
Well,
the prohibitions don't exist in this location as they do in the 45th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
All right, so you have our decision.
That does it.
You understand it, ma'am? Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your Honor, may I be excused?
You're excused.
Thank you.
Yep.
Always
Take
a
good
pleasure.
care.
All right, are you ready? Call the next case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Calling Diamond Gin Incorporated, Michael Ewinger and Carolyn LaSalle, trading as Diamond Lounge.
Here. All right, go ahead, sir.
Pardon
Me,
me.
enter an appearance for the record, Melvin J. Kudensky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the licensee.
Mr. President, Your Honor, and Your Honor, I'm first going to be calling as my witness, Officer Joshua Hall. And can we swear on the witnesses?
Yes, swear the witnesses.
Raise your right hand.
Do solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you will give the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
I do.
And when you're presenting, you can always ask that the witness be sworn on your own.
Okay. All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And can you just state your name for the record?
Joshua Hall,
And Joshua Hall, who do you work for?
the Baltimore City Police Department, Central District,
Officer Hall, how long you worked for the Baltimore City Police Department?
for about a year and a half.
And what is it you do there?
I'm a patrol officer.
Okay. And in your duties as a patrol officer, did you happen to respond to a call at 415 East Baltimore Street on December 21st, 2014 at approximately 10 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
And what city and state is that location?
Baltimore City, City Maryland.
And could you please describe to the board the circumstances which brought you to that location on that date and time?
Well, at around 10 o'clock approximately on that date, a call came out for a cutting on in the 400 block of Baltimore Street in front of the Diamond Lounge. It occurred in the Diamond Lounge, so I responded. And upon arrival, I came in contact with Mr. Marcus Brown, who stated that he had been cut while going into the club, while partying in the club. And he said he was cut by a man named Jason, later identified as Jason Kenner, or Kennan. And he said that he was a bouncer, he used to be a bouncer at the club, and Jason Kennan was a bouncer at the club as well, but they had some issues with each other in the, I guess in the past, and they had some words were exchanged between the two of them, and a fight ensued, and Mr. Brown was cut by Mr. Kennan. He was cut in his left hand, and Mr. Kennan had left the club, And by the time I got there, Mr. Brown was outside of the club, and I saw the cut on his hand. It didn't look life-threatening, and Medic 29 responded, and he refused to go to the hospital.
Now, based on the information that the victim told you, did you conduct an investigation and confirm that Mr. Kennan did indeed work at the Diamond Lounge?
Yes, yes, sir.
And what was his staffing responsibilities at the Diamond Lounge based on your investigation?
He was a bouncer at the lounge. He was a bouncer at the lounge.
And do you happen to know what, if any, how did this fight occur?
The fight occurred, I don't remember what he exactly said.
Do you need a second to take a look at your notes?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, if I may, just show the officer, have a copy of your
Police
incident report. And just take a look at it, refresh your recollection.
Thank you. Mr. Brown stated that at 21:30 hours, he was inside the Diamond Lounge dancing on the dance floor when Mr. Jason Kennan, when Mr. Jason Kennan approached him and asked him if he wasn't buying anything, he needed to leave. Mr. Brown advised that he asked the bar, and he came back behind the bar with a medium-sized kitchen knife that Mr. Kennan had a medium-sized kitchen knife. And Mr. Brown advised that when the suspect approached him with the knife, Mr. Brown punched the suspect in the face. Mr. Brown advised once he punched the suspect then cut him in the forearm on the right arm. The cut was minor, and like I said, Medic 29 responded to the scene where Mr. Brown refused medical attention. There was no visible blood at the crime scene. Further investigation revealed that Mr. Brown stated that he knew the suspect. Mr. Brown advised the suspect name was Jason, referring to Mr. Kennan. Mr. Brown advised that he and Jason used to work together at the Diamond Lounge Club as bouncers. Mr. Brown advised that he no longer works at the lounge. He normally hangs out at the location, however. The incident was captured on video, and Detective Garcia and Detective Sergeant Dahl responded to the scene. Mr. Brown was taken to Central District DDU where he was interviewed, but further investigation revealed that the identity of Jason was actually Jason Kennan, black male, date of birth of September 9th, 1978. But Sergeant Dent, who was familiar with the bouncers, and printed out a photograph of Jason Kennan. A photo array was shown to Mr. Brown as he positively identified Mr. Kennan as the person who assaulted him.
And so you were reading from your report, did you write this report?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And, just if you can explain to the board, what is this that I'm holding in my hand?
This is the police report of what occurred the night of the cutting on December 21st.
And is there an incident number associated with this report?
Yes, sir.
What's that incident number?
The incident number is 141, L as in Lincoln, 08443.
And that's specific to this particular incident, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I've shown a copy to the defense counsel moving in evidence as exhibit number 1 in the evidence file. The police report by Officer Hall. No further questions for Officer Hall.
Yeah, Officer Hall, you and I talked before today, actually, and we went over this thing. You know the victim or so, Mr. Brown?
Yes, I've seen him. I've seen him around on the block before.
He's well known on the block. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is he known as like a fighter?
Yes, sir. As I took him to DDU that day so he could be interviewed that night, he told me that he's a fighter and he likes to fight.
He likes to fight.
Yes, sir.
And then he wears his gloves. He puts gloves on when he fights. Is that correct?
Yeah, he advised that when he puts his gloves on, he means business.
He's ready for action.
Yes, sir.
All right. And the other individual, Mr. Jason Kennan, you know him also, right?
Yes, I dealt with him before.
And is it be fair to say that there's a difference in size and weight between the two of them?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown is like 6'3", about 220 pounds. The other one's like 5'9", 165.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And along with that, you arrived, it was at 2,200 hours,
Yes, sir.
according to your report. Do you know about when the actual incident happened?
Approximately like a half hour before I arrived to the scene.
All right, so when you arrived at the scene, Mr. Brown was outside the establishment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when you saw him on the outside, you then went back into the establishment?
No, I did not.
You never go in?
No, I did not. Sergeant DeGanti and Sergeant Robar went inside the establishment to look for a crime scene.
Okay. So you never went back in?
No, sir.
All right. So your entire time that you talked with Mr. Brown, you talked with him outside the establishment?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you said he had a cut on his arm or hand?
Yes, on his right forearm.
Okay. And you said there was no blood there?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't to the point where it was like bleeding on the ground
Yeah.
or anything like that.
And then the medic came and he refused treatment?
Correct. It was a minor cut.
All right. And then in the meantime, you took him, did you take him downtown? When I read your report, it looks like it sounded you took him somewhere?
Yes, sir. We walked down the block because the Central District is on 500 East Baltimore Street.
About
and
a
it
block
occurred in
away.
the 400 block, yes, of East Baltimore Street.
Are you familiar with the Diamond?
Diamond Lounge?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He said there was a dance floor. There's no dance floor down there, is there?
Not that I know of.
Okay, fine. And then along with that, did you at any time talk to any of the people at the Diamond then or afterwards?
I don't recall. I believe I talked to one person, but they pretty much said the same story that he told.
Okay. And was everybody cooperative with you when you were there?
Yes, sir. Everybody that I've seen that were interviewed by others were pretty cooperative.
Okay. Fine. I have no further questions.
No, nothing further. Yes, I do. I'm going to be calling. Is it Sergeant Detective or Detective Sergeant? Sergeant Dahl. Sergeant Dahl. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Sergeant Randy Dahl, Baltimore City Police Department, Central District Detective Unit.
How long have you been with the police department?
I'm in my 33rd year.
And as Sergeant for the DDU, what are your duties and responsibilities?
Investigate assaults, robberies, shootings, burglaries.
And did you happen to get a call for service on December 21st, 2014, approximately 2,200 hours?
A little after 10 o'clock that night, yes, we got a request from the patrol officer hall to respond up to the incident. They had a cutting.
And upon responding to the scene, what, if anything, did you observe?
I observed Mr. Brown. He had a small cut on in his right forearm. Listened to his story briefly, that he was inside the lounge, got into an argument with one of the employees who he described as Jason. He was a bouncer or a doorman. I then had Detective Garcia and Officer Hall walking to the office where Detective Garcia took an interview and showed the photo array, eventually showed photo arrays. I went into the lounge looking for a crime scene.
And what did you discover when you went into the lounge?
I didn't find any crime scene. I then asked if the manager was here. I was then told by the barmaid that the manager was en route because she got a call about the incident. The manager arrived, and her name was Amanda Hartman. She arrived and she assisted me in getting the video.
And when you say video, what do you mean?
They had security cameras inside the establishment, and she helped me down. She downloaded it onto my zip drive.
And how many videos are there? Were you able to download, if you can recall?
It took several. It only did it by I think 15 minutes, but it took several times to like almost 2 hours to download it.
Okay. Now I have a freeze frame here. If you'll just come around right here, so you can take a look at it. If you can, you can put it down. Yeah. Just looking at this still, Sheena, is this looking at this screenshot right here? Is this the Diamond Lounge?
Yes.
And now, is this the video for on the date and time of the incident that you responded to?
Yes.
At the Diamond Lounge?
Yes, on the 21st at 21:04 hours.
And this, you got this tape from Amanda, correct? The manager at the Diamond Lounge.
Correct.
And you made a copy of that, or you gave the copy to Mr. Shelton Jones, our chief inspector?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then he provided that to me. I'm going to just now be moving this into evidence. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm moving the video footage into evidence. I've showed a copy, and I actually got the video footage late yesterday, and I provided copies to Mr. Kadinsky earlier today.
It's ours.
Huh?
It's our video footage.
Correct.
Okay.
For the purposes of this hearing. And I'm just going to ask,
Proprietary interest, I'm not sure about it, but we'll go ahead.
I'm going to ask that the video be played now. It's about 2 to 3 minutes.
There's no sound.
And if I can just use you as, now do you happen to see a victim present there? If you can point him out, we can use this.
Yes, sir.
Are you supposed to be showing that to us also?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Here, why don't you put it in the middle?
Yeah, this is.
Because of the light.
tilted up a little.
You gotta tilt it up a little bit.
Looks like a
Better?
negative.
There you go.
Way better? Okay, all right.
If you could point out the victim, you can use a pen or a pointer.
The victim's dancing, he's got his hood up, he's got a goatee.
And can you identify the suspect?
The suspect is behind the bar here. This is Jason. This is Cedric. He's the head of the security or head of the bouncers, as I was told.
So the guy jumping up and down
Is the victim.
okay, go ahead.
This is also an employee bouncer, doorman, from what I was told. This is Jason again, coming at him. Arthur getting into an argument.
Is Jason the victim or the perpetrator?
Jason,
Alleged.
Alleged.
in this particular incident, we have him as the perpetrator because of the knife, alleged knife.
Okay, go ahead, explain it, what are we looking at?
They're continuing to argue. Again, this is Jason. He's coming at the victim, Mr. Brown.
Which one is Brown? 'Cause it
This
looks
is
like a
Brown,
woman.
this is Brown.
Huh?
I knew he was looking at the woman. I saw this video.
Brown goes upstairs. You're
It's like
gonna see
Perkin in the background.
moments
Yes.
later, he's gonna come
You can
back
see
down.
him
He's not gonna have his
he's
hood
looking
on.
at-
And if you look at it close enough, you'll be able to see that he has gloves on.
He's very frightened.
Where's he go upstairs? I don't understand.
He goes upstairs to the outside.
The Diamond Lounge is down in the
Oh, I see.
basement.
Yes.
It was outside.
At 2106, that's
Oh,
where.
yeah, that's, where is
It
it?
is now.
Huh?
You'll see him come back down.
It just takes about a minute. It's quick.
Jason's back here. The victim just came back down. As you can see, he doesn't have his hood on. He's got his gloves on.
Point him out. Right there.
Yes, sir.
So the victim had the gloves on.
Yes,
There, and that's the victim throwing his arm?
yes,
Yep.
as you can see
I
the
see
gloves.
At whom?
He's basically going after Jason. Now, if you watch Jason's right hand, you're gonna see him come up, and there was the knife.
Oh, I see. That's a serious knife, huh?
It's
Big knife.
I was told by Amanda that was one of the knives they used to cut the lemons up to put into the drinks.
So go ahead, keep explaining.
They're still arguing. You're gonna see, eventually, this is another, I believe another bouncer or a doorman from another club. He came down to assist, and that's what they normally do. Now, you're gonna see Jason being pushed back by the victim,
Oh, my goodness.
and you saw where at that point, that's when we believe he got caught.
I mean, he was pushing back at that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, point him out again.
This is Jason.
Mhm. And where's the,
The victim went upstairs and out.
And so the girls got involved too, huh? Or the ladies?
The
They're
ladies are
trying to
watching.
calm everybody
Calm it
down.
down.
Pardon? Raven.
okay.
Okay, the rest of it is.
Yes,
Where's
sir.
the rest of her clothes?
Not the church.
All right,
All right.
that's it?
That's it. That's it.
And now, after
It's not a
seeing this
church.
video, after speaking to the victim, what, if anything, did you do?
Photo arrays were shown to the victim and to Cedric, the bouncer, with Jason as part of the photo array, and both of them picked him out as the one that had the knife cutting. After that, then Officer Hall, we assigned Officer Hall to get the warrant for him.
And
For Jason, as of this date, Jason's not been arrested yet.
And so was a warrant obtained?
Yes, sir.
And what am I, and that I can show
You're
you?
looking at a copy of the arrest warrant for Jason Kean, Kennon, lives in Essex, 1022 Franklin Street.
Now, to obtain this warrant, what did you do? Somebody go to the court commissioner
Yes, Officer Hall went to the court commissioner and obtained the warrant.
and presented the charges to the court commissioner?
Yes, sir.
And based on the charges and the information provided to the court commissioner deemed it warranted to issue an arrest warrant?
Yes, for assault and deadly weapon.
Okay. Then moving into evidence, a copy of the charging document and arrest warrant.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Mark it.
And I provided a copy to counsel. No further questions.
Question across.
Yeah, Sergeant, and we had talked,
Yes, sir.
at all times when you came to the Diamond Lounge, they were cooperative with you and helped you?
Yes, sir.
And then anything, when you asked them about the video, they provided the video and you were able to download it, so there was no question of them trying to hide anything, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you know a little about this Marcus Brown at all, about the glove routine?
First time I ever met him, but talking to him, and that's how I got the information about that once he takes his coat off and puts his gloves on, that he intends to fight. That he possibly could be a blood member or a gang member of some sort. I don't know. I checked our database and I don't find him in our database.
Okay. But in any event, when you talked with Mr. Brown, you talked with him at the station?
No, I only stood by while we were outside the entrance of the Diamond Lounge on the street when we first walked up on the scene.
And were you there when the medic came?
No, I believe I was downstairs.
Okay. And you went downstairs to see if there was any physical evidence of any blood or anything else, is that correct?
Correct, and I didn't find anything.
And when you were down there at that time, the people were cooperative with you at that time also, is that correct?
Yes, the barmaid,
Ashley, I believe, had told me that Amanda was on her way.
Okay. I have no further questions.
I just have one question. I want to get clear. The victim is a bouncer that worked with the other person, the employee. Is that correct? Were they associated in the past?
I don't know that. I believe Officer Hall.
Yes, sir.
They were.
Yes, sir. It was associated in the past.
They had worked someplace else or that place.
At that location.
At that location. Okay. All right. Any other witnesses?
Can I just follow up on, but not at that time, in the past.
No, in the past, I said.
That's fine, fine.
Yeah.
So the victim no longer worked there.
At that
The
time.
alleged perpetrator did.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, Your Honor. Not here, please.
So where's the victim?
Your Honor, the victim is not here today.
Okay. That's your case.
That's our case.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
State your name and address for the record, please.
It's Michael Gates.
And you were one of the managers of the Diamond, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been the manager there?
6 years.
All right, and actually, on this particular day, you actually saw Mr. Brown go into the place, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And was he a kind of person who was barred from there?
Yes, he was.
Why is he barred from there and other places on the block?
Has a lot of.
Objection to other places on the block.
Overruled.
He was barred from the Diamond Lounge for, number one, he was fired for a lot of problems that he's given us back last February of 2014. And he was barred because he made threatening accusations to the employees there, not just one, but several.
All right, now, did you, when you saw him go down to the, did you then follow him down from the outside?
Yes, I was standing outside. I actually had just arrived and was speaking with someone else about 3 doors up. Heard the commotion, but didn't fully understand it, didn't fully hear what everybody was saying. I I saw him come out. He was saying something to another guy, a couple other guys calling him over, putting on his gloves, and then I seen him run down. At the time, which was December, I had just came out of the hospital, so I threw my back out. So I couldn't chase down behind him. When I finally got downstairs into the Diamond Lounge, the fight and all the chaos had started. I tried to grab Mr. Brown, and with the help of another gentleman who was not security, and walk him out.
All right, is that when he came back down and pushed him against the wall?
Yes,
And then after that, he left?
yes.
All right.
He left the block completely.
Okay. And along with that, the gentleman in front, Jason here, is he an employee? A employee that
No,
works
he's
there
not.
regularly?
No, he's not.
What does he
He's
do
not.
there?
He's a runner.
Now, runner is something that I'll know that, unless you're frequenters of the block, that you know what a runner does. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But what does a runner do?
Well, a runner is someone that we ask to help us when it comes to when the dancers want something to eat or whatever the case may be. They'll go out, get it for them, and bring it back. The dancers will give them money to go get it for them because they're not allowed to leave the club. If I need something done or a bartender may need something done, like some ice, they'll ask a runner to go get it. We don't have an ice machine in our club, unfortunately, but we asked Mr. Jason Brennan or whatever to run and get some ice. That's the purpose of him being in there that night.
How many nights during a regular month would he typically be there?
He's around couple days a week.
And then this was particularly a Sunday, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
All right. And after this incident happened, has he been back since then?
No, he hasn't.
So nobody's seen him?
No, they haven't.
And along with that, you helped clear the area up after this incident happened, is that correct?
Yes, somewhat I did help clear the area out, yes.
I have no further questions.
Couple questions.
Yes.
So you're the manager?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so you oversee security and the dancers?
Okay, we don't have security, sir.
You don't have bouncers?
No, we don't. We don't have bouncers. I have a doorman, and that's something else I would like to clarify as well. I have no kind of security in that club. I have a doorman. I have no need for security.
You have no need for security?
Yes.
Even in light of this incident?
In light of this incident, we have looked into it, but it's you know what I mean? We're working on it right now.
Okay, so you said Mr. Kennan was a runner, correct?
Yes, sir.
So he was paid for his services, correct?
Yeah, he'll get tipped, which means he may get, if he goes to get me ice, I'll give him $3, $4 for going to get it for him.
So he's paid for his services
Yes.
by either yourself or somebody else
Yes.
at the bar?
Right.
To do, to act for the bar?
Yes.
Okay. And he has access to the bar area?
No, he does not. Except if he's getting ice, he should be handing the ice over, and they can dump the ice themselves.
Okay. And do you have a security protocol for dealing with somebody like Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
What's the protocol?
911.
Okay. And at any time before this incident occurred, before the stabbing occurred, was 911 called?
No, it wasn't. Again, once he left, he was escorted out by Mr. Cedric the first time. Once he left, he ran back in. He ran past them and ran in and did all of this.
Okay.
So no one had time to.
So what's your security, do you have a security protocol for just dealing with unruly patrons?
Yeah, it's normally a patrol outside, so we'll just have them come in. We'll ask them to come in and escort the patron out.
So you don't have any kind of
we will not get involved with customers, no.
Do you card?
Yes, we do. At the door, we do
Check
card.
for any weapons or anything?
Yes, we do. We pat down. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We cannot get involved in any kind of altercations in terms of physical altercations with patrons when they come in. I tell all my employees that just call the police or go outside and try to catch a patrolman and bring them in.
So in this instance,
Other than that,
things just went terribly wrong?
Yes.
And nobody followed protocol?
Yes, we did. Someone called 911.
Okay.
The gentleman, Mr. Brown, he didn't call 911 until he came back a half hour later.
But not until after somebody was stabbed.
Right.
911 call.
Right.
No further questions.
Any other witnesses?
State your name and address to the record, please.
Michael Bunger. My address is 2 Fawn Drive in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, and I'm the club owner.
And you've been owner there for how long?
20 years. This will be my 21st.
All right. And during that time, you heard the testimony of Mr. Bates. Was the gentleman an employee of yours, or was he characterized as a runner, as we explained to you?
He's a runner, and that particular evening, since a guy had never showed up to work on the door, he was going back and forth from running and working the door. If I can elaborate on it just a little bit, we're a nightclub, but we got 22 bar stools. If you picture a neighborhood bar, that's the size of the Diamond Lounge. It's 1,000 square feet, and that includes the bathrooms and the dressing rooms and whatnot. Okay, that's the reason that we don't have a security force per se. And Mr. Gates, who is my manager, actually does the security himself, because usually nobody even says anything back to him. And he's a pretty big guy, and he'll escort people out of the bar if they need to be escorted. I just wanted to get that clear so you'd understand that we're not like Hammerjacks that holds 4,000 people. We have 22 bar stools, and we don't have a dance floor.
And along with that, did you know this fellow Marcus Brown at all?
Yes, actually back in September or so, he had been fired back in February, and he came in one Monday when I was down there, and he barged into my office, demanding to know why he couldn't be rehired. And I told him, I said, well, you got to take that up with the managers, because I don't do the hiring. I let the managers do the hiring. That's what I pay them for. So he was relatively belligerent, and I really didn't know him well, because when he did work, it was only a couple of weeks back in last February. And if you remember all the snow we had, I didn't get down a whole lot out of Pennsylvania. So Amanda, who is the head bartender at night, would text me repeatedly about this Mr. Brown, who, because he was probably ticked off that we wouldn't hire him back, was harassing a lot of the employees at the Diamond, threatening them with bodily harm. He was actually, and some of the officers here probably could tell me better, but I was told by a uniformed officer on the street himself that Mr. Brown had been barred from even coming back to the block because he was trouble. So he was never kept off the block. And I'm not going to let anyone into the bar that the police don't even want on the block hanging in my bar, especially when they're a troublemaker. I just wanted to elaborate on that also.
You get along with the police, and you have a history of having people that are police officers.
Well, absolutely. My father was a police officer. He ran the Southeastern Police Boys Club for 20 years on Bank and Bethel Street. And I grew up idolizing police officers. My father was my idol, my hero. And you can't find an officer that's ever worked on Baltimore Street.
It was actually the Eastern District.
At one time it was, yes, sir. And then when the Eastern moved out to way out Eastern Avenue,
Then it became
became Southeastern Police Boys Club, yes, sir.
But at Bank Street, it was Eastern. That's what you said.
Eventually. I mean, it was originally. Yeah. It then became the Southeastern Police Boys Club.
After it moved out of that building.
Correct, yes, sir. No, they're still there. It's a
The
youth
building's
club.
still there.
Yeah.
It's not a police.
Well, he retired in '72.
Yeah.
And they were up on the 3rd floor, and then.
I'm getting you off the track.
Yes, you are.
I don't mean.
He might have been a Red Shield boy.
That explains it.
No, I was a newspaper reporter. I used to be over there all the time.
Uh-oh.
Worked for the Sun. I covered this, covered the police department.
Best picture of her face, Floyd Hartley.
Go ahead.
And that's pretty much it, but I've had a very good rapport with police officers on the block.
Oh, no, wait for a question wait for a question.
Well, he did. He just asked me to elaborate.
Anything else? Cross.
Did you at any time after Mr. Brown came into your office contact the police and let them know that this individual was trespassing?
No.
Okay. Did you have any kind of protocol set up to deal with Mr. Brown if he were to come onto the property?
Well, yeah, he was barred. He was told at the door he wasn't allowed in.
Okay.
And his quote to all of the guys who had worked on my door was, "There's nobody big enough or bad enough here that's going to keep me out." That's what, and I heard him say that myself. And they were scared of him, because he had a reputation for what was testified to earlier. That's all he wants to do is fight.
Do you have a security plan set up are in
Well-
terms of dealing, in terms of, checking people, having a bouncer there? Or do you-
We don't have bouncers per se because we're so small. Okay, we have a doorman who's basically a barker and checks IDs. Okay, and Mr. Gates is my manager, but he's there every night and he serves as the, whoever would escort someone out if the need would be. So that's pretty much it.
Any other witnesses? Yeah, I'll try to work it at all as best I can. All right, commissioners' questions.
Yes, sir.
I just have one. Mr. Gates?
Yes, sir.
You identified Mr. Brown. You
Yes.
saw him going into the club.
Yes.
You knew that he was barred from the club.
Yes.
Did you have your cell phone with you?
Yeah, it was in my jacket. Yes, sir.
Why did you call 911? I mean, that's record, that shows that you're trying to cooperate. And
Of course.
trying to keep the club the way it's supposed to be. And
Of course. I left it, right, when I went in the courts again, like I said, I went in, I let my doorman know, let's get him out of here. And at that time, he walked out. So again, it was like a quick reaction on him to do what he did, and it threw me off. You know what I mean? Because I mean,
the doorman, when you walk past you, if you're afraid of him, call 911. Anybody.
yes, I instruct anyone that any problems, any fear of anybody, call 911. And again, he was targeting one person, so he didn't make any threats to anyone else at that particular time. He was targeting one person. Probably 3 minutes. Yeah.
Looking at it, it looks like it was about this.
No, it was quick. It was quick. Yeah. And again, we first thing we want to do is involve Baltimore City Police. You know what I mean? But a lot of times with myself, I feel like I can talk people, in a favorable way of just walking out without incident. And that's the main thing. I don't want no incidents, no problems like that. Yes, sir.
I guess my question was really trying to focus on the person who's alleged to have done the stabbing.
Yes.
And what his business relationship was to the bar.
Yes.
And that night, how long had he been associated with the bar prior to the
incident?
To the incident, December 21, 2014.
I'll say roughly about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. I mean, I know these guys, both gentlemen. I know both gentlemen very well. I've worked with them. Of course, I hired them. And again, I've second chance, try to help somebody get a job, and work with them. But when things don't work out, I had to get rid of them. I know Mr. Brown as someone who has a lot of problems mentally, not right. And I know Mr. Brennan, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, small guy, maybe has that small guy complex. But at the same time, I understand that, you're down in Baltimore City, you have to, you can't let nobody just run over top of you. You can't let nobody, try to do nothing to you. So, I understand he wanted to defend himself.
So when I looked at the video, it looked to me that Mr. Brown kind of came in with a plan.
Yes, he did.
And that he wasn't there to
Have fun.
enjoy the
No.
club. And he came in and immediately was letting everyone know that he was there.
Yeah.
And his whole physical motions and presence was, I'm here.
Yeah. Danger.
Kind of like, what are you going to do about it?
Danger, yeah.
So it was.
And you gotta, I'm sorry
it's
to
okay.
interrupt.
I
You
don't
gotta understand that a lot of people are afraid of this guy. They really are. To involve the police with a lot of, and understand, and not like me, a lot of people are really afraid of this guy, okay? So to call the police will be like a snitching thing. They don't want to have him come back in retaliation. You understand? That's how bad this is. Okay? And
Well, that's not
who wants to be
that's not
facing
evident.
that?
That's not evident from the video.
Yes.
So the challenge, at least for me, is that there was an incident. It did occur in the bar.
Yes.
It did occur. An employee of the bar.
Yes.
Was involved.
Yes.
And so, what is our responsibility to, to do something about that? And I think that there is a responsibility to do something. You keep saying there's not a dance floor. Now, I've never been in
Yes.
to any of the establishments in that block of
Yes.
Baltimore Street.
Right.
But you keep saying there's not a dance floor, but they're dancers. So if they're not, so
It's not a
like
dance, it was a stage.
Oh, okay. So
Yes,
it's a stage.
That's out of sight.
So
on the camera.
people
That's on the
don't
back
go in
part.
to dance.
No,
Okay.
no, too small.
Okay. So it's a small place, 22 seats.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
time for decision. I'm not going to.
Is there anything else?
I'm not going to try the missing runner, Mr. Jason. I do find, with respect to that the incidents revolve around Mr. Brown. And it seems clear to me that Mr. Brown is a troublemaker. When he put the gloves on and came back in, a huge man, much smaller than Jason, while Jason's may have, I'm not sure he overreacted, but he pulled out a knife. But it seems to me from looking at it, it was more defensive than offensive. I don't find that when a businessman's trying to operate, which is legal in the city of Baltimore, as this type of business, has acted unreasonably in what they did in this incident. I find no illegal conduct, public welfare issue, or violation of entertainment, and I find no violation of Rule 14 under other standards in this case. I think that the bar has done everything it could to prevent it, and that nothing that was done would be a violation of any of these charges. As I said, I'm not trying Mr. Jason. He's not before me, and it's not my issue. Therefore, I absolve the bar of all these charges. That's my decision. You're next.
No, I'm almost with you, but when Jason retrieved that knife from behind the counter and brought it with him to the floor, Mr. Brown didn't go behind the counter where he was. He came from behind the counter to the floor where Jason, where Mr. Brown. To me, he has some intent there. And as an employee, and he is an employee because he was paid, I think the bar holds some responsibility for that action. So I think the bar should be held accountable for that. But again, the major aggressor was Mr. Brown. And I think if he had not come down there with his comments and putting the gloves on and may have made some remarks, I mean, he looked at Mr. Jason and the hand motion as if, come get some of this, whatever. It's kind of hard, but we still have to hire employees who can be reasonable, You can't react to other folks when they come after you. And that's the only problem I have. I just feel that Jason helped that along, so.
So, trying to look at the whole scope, on this one, I disagree with His Honor, and I do think that the bar is responsible for each of the violations that are listed, and here's why. It was the bar's employee who actually came from behind the bar with a knife. And that was the I don't think either one of these men are angelic in any way. Both of them are at fault for what they did, but it was the bar's employee that came out with a knife and started swinging. And I think that put everybody in the bar in danger, and everyone in the bar knew, or at least you knew and other employees knew, to call 911 to get help if this person came in. I think that there were comments made that bouncers from other bars came in to try to help. That was another level of some response. But the big problem was that a knife was gotten. It was a knife from the bar, and the person was stabbed. And so I do find responsibility. I do find responsibility. And then we go to penalty, which I mean, I don't know if there's mitigation or whether, or what we do, but.
Basically, as we indicates, as we refer to as a de minimis case that had something, and the question is, are there mergers involved here? Where is the adult entertainment violations? Is it one thing or two? I'm not want to try to help you to help me against me.
Well, there are 4 violations, and my thought on this, given the history of both of the people involved and the nature of this club, the size of the club, its lack of any prior violations of this nature, I would impose a $500 fine, which is the most that we can do, and I would apply it to the first violation of 3.12 public welfare, and not impose a fine for the following 3.
Mr. Jones? It's to you.
Yeah, so just to be clear, my
We still don't have a decision.
we don't have a decision. My position is that I do find responsibility. I do find the violations. I would impose a $500 penalty or fine for violation of Rule 3.12, which is disturbing the public welfare, and I would not impose a fine for the following 3.
I concur with that. That's the least I can do. Because I do believe that he did disturb peace. And I don't want to be overly judgmental. I did see some folks from the club trying to prevent and stop. But we have to let you know that, you put other folks at risk when he came from behind that counter with that knife. And the folks who are trying to stop him, who knows where that knife would end up. So, I just can't let you walk away. Something was done there.
And of note.
Folks, come on. You already had your, you already had
A week?
That's it. You got your decision.
A week to pay?
Week.
Okay.
Okay, folks, you have your decision.
You got to get, Mike? You got to get, no, you keep wanting to give me the pink slip.
I'm trying to get you.
I'm assuming, Josh, you rush us
And
through, so
we're-
you
that's
ready?
it,
We
huh?
can go now, right? I can go
Yes.
home now. I don't have to listen to this more. Off the record, yeah. And Mr. Kadesky? Melvin? Don't never, ever try to take the judge's job again.
And for the record, even though we're off the record, I think he is wonderful. Absolutely.
Oh, the Blarney's coming out for St. Patrick's Day, isn't it?
I love this. I tried to choke him last week.
Oh, Lord.
I tried to choke him last
She
week.
was just single.
We're still on.
Where's the lightning rods?
Oh, God. Where's my husband? It's okay, Ralph. We're okay. We're good.
I gotta be careful. I may need a knife.
All right, take care.
All right, folks.
Chairman, that's such a good day.
And we'll see you for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we were not back for 2 weeks.
No, I watched the video before and I was trying